So, hey Bram, so we got like configuration and supervisor. Is there a possibility to merge them together?
We could probably get some APIs to talk to each other, and then we can maybe incorporate some of the stuff from supervisor into the configuration panel.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So what I had in mind is to, like, for example, bring the updates we have on supervisor to this screen card over here, and maybe put it on top of this list, the menu list.
Yeah, so it's the most important.
Yeah.
And you want to list all the updates in there.
Yeah.
Like Home Assistant Core, Home Assistant OS, maybe even add-ons. You want to
even add-ons? Yeah, even add-ons. That would,
yeah, that would be nice. That's
so
in
while
the
I'm looking at
configuration screen.
This screen personally, I think it could get have some more colors. So it's really black and white. So can we give the icons more colors?
When you have them all colored up per category, but should we maybe collapse it into one entry per category?
That's a great idea.
So then the list gets a lot shorter, as it's now always getting larger and larger. Yeah, this also in the next page, then the tabs on top will match.
Yeah, let's open that page. We'll go to that. So we move the updates, so we can remove this part on the screen. So in that case, like add-ons, it moved up, right?
But it's weird that we have add-ons and then we have the add-on store, like your installed add-ons are on the dashboard. Can we move the add-on store to
this should be
like this page?
Add-ons?
Like we have in the integration and other pages, we have the tab on the bottom to add them. Yeah, and this will be will open the add-on store.
Whoa. VR. This is amazing. Let's see, where would those guys be hanging out? Yeah, probably here.
But I think it's a nice start if we move the updates, clean up the add-on store,
and
add links from the configuration screen. I think that's a good start. Then we can move forward after that.
Hey, look who's there! It's Dr. Steve.
Hey fellas, how's it going?
Justin, what brings you down here?
Hey, I've been looking for you guys. What is this?
This is the Nabu Casa office. This is where we work on Home Assistant.
Holy cow, this is amazing. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, hey, I came to find you guys because it's time for the conference to start. There's people waiting.
Oh, you're right. Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's get this party started.
Awesome.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Was that fun or what? That was pretty cool. That really is where they work on Home Assistant. It's the metaverse. It's for real. So, hey, thank you for being here. This is the State of the Open Home Conference. We got a great bunch of presenters for you this year, and we're excited. We're excited. Thanks for being here. Welcome, welcome. First speaker, might as well jump right in, right? We kind of already played around a little bit, so let's jump right in. Number one speaker, founder of Home Assistant, the man himself, Paulus.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Justin. Let me just kick right in. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the State of the Open Home. So today we're going to present our vision of where we think that the smart home world should be, and we also are going to have a bunch of projects that are going to helping us build this and make this possible. We're also going to have some great presenters that are using Home Assistant and other tools to do research and build cool stuff. But let me just jump straight in. What is the open home? See, for us, the open home is about privacy, choice, and durability. And it means privacy. All your data should be local by default. This is like non-negotiable. A cloud can be used for a product, maybe opt-in, but like only really if the user wants to. The second thing is choice. As a user, you need to be able to take your data and also be able to use it with other systems. We don't want to have like walled gardens where you cannot use your one product you buy with another product because a manufacturer doesn't like it. And the last thing is durability. products need to be built and designed to last, not just for a year or two and then throw out, but for 5 or even better, 10 years. So, for example, I recently came across this photo. It's like an old thermostat. It's still on the wall, so I'm assuming it works, and it has been discolored because of age. And that made me realize, how many products do we have in our home today that will discolor before they become obsolete? We've been having a lot of technical innovation in the last decade or two around like the smart home. But with every time we're innovating faster, also kind of the mindset has slipped in. We don't care about the old stuff. Just throw it out. Just replace it all. But as we're going to get more and more things in our house that are being smart, you can't just expect users to throw out like 20 devices. Like even one device is actually already too much. So we need to get back this mindset where we build stuff that can work for a long time. Now, the reason I'm here today talking about all of this is because in 2013, I bought the then called Philips Hue light bulbs for my home. It had a local API, and I wrote a script to turn on the lights when the sun was setting. This little side project called Home Assistant grew out to be one of the most active open source projects on GitHub today. Now, a couple of years ago, 3.5 to be precise, we kind of got to a point, or actually we were already a bit past this point, that there was too much maintenance happening for Home Assistant, and it put too much burden on the developers of Home Assistant. For me personally, I was working on Home Assistant before I got to work, because Home Assistant wasn't my full-time job. I would work on Home Assistant after I came home from work, in the evening, late nights, and all the weekend. And this is not sustainable. And we looked at other open source projects like Django, and we saw huge maintainer burnout, and we really want to avoid that. Because building Home Assistant is our passion and our goal, but it shouldn't come at the cost of human sacrifice. Now, the smart home industry was also changing around that time. Amazon and also later Google had entered the space, and they tried to become the dominant platform. And they did this by introducing voice assistants to which device manufacturers could integrate, but only through proprietary APIs that only allowed you to send data to Google or Amazon's cloud. And there were no APIs to get this data back. And this has a problem, because this means that if you want to innovate and you want to know the state of the whole home, you cannot, because you couldn't get that data. So it means that for your smart home, you had to rely on either Google or Amazon to innovate. And our homes are too important to leave to a single company to decide what's going to be the next feature for our home. We need to have choice. We need to have competition, because then a lot of innovation can happen. Now, so we were at this point where we didn't want to go in this direction with Home Assistant. And it was an easy choice, because Home Assistant started as a side project. So all data was already local. As a side project, you don't have money to just spin up a cloud and process everybody's data. So Home Assistant was built and designed for local control and processing everything local. But we saw this trend in the smart home world, and we knew we had to double down. Like our values, privacy, local control, they're not negotiable. However, making this decision also meant we could not take any external money as investments to make development sustainable. Because once you take investors, it means that you need to give return on investment. It needs to be that you're going to get either acquired or you go public. And that means growth, growth, growth. Growth is the number one priority, and that would have to go above values, and that was not an option. So instead, we decided to create Nabu Casa. And with Nabu Casa, we decided to create a product called Home Assistant Cloud. With Home Assistant Cloud, Home Assistant users can subscribe, and then they can end-to-end encrypted connect to their Home Assistant instance while they're away from home. This is, for example, great if you use the Home Assistant Companion app to send your location home without any cloud service snooping on it. And this has actually been a big success. People are willing to pay for privacy. People are willing to pay money to support the development of local open source home automation. Today, we have 12 people working full-time on Home Assistant. And this goes all the way from people in New Zealand to California to Europe. Oh, and Colorado. And these people every day during the week, they will work on open source. And all the work we've done on Home Assistant and related projects, everything has been open source. Because it's our goal to build out the open home. Now, once you start using Home Assistant and you kind of get deeper, you start to realize that there's so many different open source projects that all are working together to build out your smart home. And the reason that all these open source projects work together is because an open API is a foundational building block of open source projects. And the reason for this is that most smart home open source projects are being created by people in their spare time because they're solving a problem that they want to that they have. Now, they want as many people to use it. That's why we make it open source. So but we cannot build every feature. So if somebody says, I want this feature, instead of saying, no, 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 you're out of luck, open source projects just add an API. You add an API and then you can say, well, you can build this in your own project. And this means that if you are using, for example, Home Assistant as the core of your smart home, everything works together. All these products can go into Home Assistant, and then other products can then again build on top of Home Assistant. Like, for example, Node-RED, if you want to do a different automation engine, or voice assistants like Genie or Google. Now, this is a big contrast to what happens in consumer product. When you buy consumer products, a manufacturer will create an app for their product. Then another manufacturer will create a product with their app, and those will not be compatible. It means that the data of your smart home is fragmented. It is spread out through these different apps. They don't work together. You cannot automate across, and it's a mess. You end up with 10 different apps on your home screen. Nobody wants that. Now, there is a solution for this, and this is smart home standards. With smart home standards, there's a defined set of functionality that, for example, a light bulb needs to be implementing, and then you can say, hey, this is Z-Wave or this is Zigbee. And this allows for a manufacturer to no longer have to build and maintain their app. Instead, they can just add this API on top, and any compatible smart home can integrate. Now, this has the downside that if functionality is fixed in a protocol, that there's less room for innovation, because you cannot do cool stuff, build cool features anymore, because the controller wouldn't know how to deal with it. However, it has the benefit that it commoditizes these kind of products. So, for example, today a Zigbee light bulb is really, really cheap, because in the end, the only thing manufacturers can compete on, how cheap can I make the product and how cheap can I get it in the hands of our consumer. Now, if you're like talking about smart home standards, we can of course not ignore the new big and upcoming one. It's called Matter. Now, I already talked about Matter last year at the Home Assistant conference. Back then, it was called Project Connected Home over IP, or Project CHIP. It is a brand new smart home standard based on the latest technologies, and it's backed by Google, Apple, and Amazon, which means that if these big tech giants are going to build and integrate it, manufacturers will follow. Now, the sad news is that since the last year, the only thing that has changed is the name and the logo. So still the same companies back it, so I guess that's good. They expect now, or on The Verge I read, maybe June of next year, we can expect some products. So maybe that's great. So maybe in 2023, we can really talk about like the impact of Matter. But of course, even when we buy a Matter product, our smart home still needs to work with all the old stuff. We're not going to throw away everything, right? Now, we want manufacturers to do the right thing. And we can reward manufacturers by doing the right thing, by buying the products that do the right thing. And it gives a signal to the manufacturer, oh, people are buying this product because, we're doing something right. Now, there's different categories for how a product interacts with the smart home. And it's kind of a good indicator if it's going to last not just 2 years, but 5 years or 10 years. And that is, how do you interact with this product? Now, if a product has an open standard, for example, Z-Wave or Zigbee, or in the future Matter, you can use it because it's guaranteed to be working locally and nobody can take it away. Your smart home can just speak this protocol, for example, through a USB stick that speaks this protocol, and you can integrate these lights or switches or all that stuff. Now, if a product has a documented local API, like for example, the U-lights or the Shelly relays, it will also continue to work because this product will just, this local API will also be there. So as long as your smart home supports it, it works. And in fact, remember I told you that in 2013, I got started because of Philips Hue. I still have this hub and it has actually discolored, but it still works because it has a local API. So that's really cool. Now, if a product has a cloud API, you need to be really, really careful because remember, we want the product to work for like 5 or 10 years. How many cloud products from 5 years ago do you know that still work? So there's kind of subcategories when we talk about cloud, right? The first thing is that if a product has a subscription, monthly or annual, well, this is great because you're actually giving money to the manufacturer to maintain the cloud. So it is a low risk that this product might go away. some products, they will have the initial price of the product include certain years of guaranteed cloud usage. For example, Philips has a cloud API to integrate with Google, and they write in their support, you can guarantee 3 years of cloud when you buy a hub. Now, this doesn't mean it's a low or high risk, but it's at least a known risk, so you know how to deal with it, and you can judge for yourself. Now, if a product's cloud is covered by advertisements, this is a very high risk. Because remember, we're in it for 5 or 10 years. It means that something that's popular today, it's easy to get advertisers. But in 5 or 10 years, it might just not be popular anymore and advertisers go away. And who's paying for your cloud? And if you think about it, the cloud in the end is just somebody else's computer. Somebody needs to pay for it. And it's not just one device. They sell million or maybe 2 million light bulbs. And all these light bulbs need to remain connected. And so who's going to pay for this? If a company doesn't have enough money to pay for their cloud, bankrupt is the last option, right? But the first option is turn off all devices, cripple cloud features, or pivot to subscriptions. And all three things, of course, are unexpected and so undesirable. All right, share the love. This is a photo of me from the Home Assistant State of the Union in 2018. Now, we came here today with Nabu Casa because of Home Assistant. But Home Assistant is only one part of your smart home. It's the brains. But if all your devices are not working locally, then there is no use to it, right? We need everything to be local. So this year, we have been also working on other parts outside of Home Assistant to improve the overall open home. So the first thing we did is that Nabu Casa has acquired ESPHome. ESPHome is an open source project that is a no-code software generator for microcontrollers. Let me break that down. So no code means that you're configuring it. Oh, you say, this microcontroller has a temperature sensor, or this microcontroller has a light bulb. And then ESPHome will generate software that you can install on microcontrollers. These microcontrollers, this is what makes your light bulb smart. This is what makes your switch smart. This is what makes your plug smart. And so with ESPHome installed on it, now that device becomes locally accessible and integrates seamlessly into Home Assistant. Now, the fact that it integrates seamlessly into Home Assistant, that is not a coincidence, because ESPHome was created by Otto Winter, one of the Home Assistant core developers. And today, it's super popular with the Home Assistant community. According to Home Assistant Analytics, our opt-in analytics service, over 17.5% of Home Assistant users have one or more ESPHome device. Now, sadly, well, it's not sad, but ESPHome was growing, and it took more time. And at some point, Otto could no longer combine it with his live commitments. And so ESPHome started lingering a bit. And we wanted to make it big and let it grow. So we talked with Otto and we decided to acquire it. And then we also hired one of the ESPHome core developers, Jesse Hills, to work on it full time. And he's going to also talk about this later in the presentation. Now, we've been spending a lot of time on improving ESPHome and also in making it even easier than it already was. And when we were working on these tools, we realized, like, wait a second, if we just, the things we're building for ESPHome, if we generalize it a bit more, all open source firmware for microcontrollers can benefit. So we set out to build these tools. Because if you have an open source software that you want to install in your microcontroller, well, that's a pain. You need to buy a microcontroller, of course. Then you need to download an application to install software on microcontrollers. Then you need to find the software version that matches the microcontroller version that you bought, download it, and install it. Now, we realized that, hey, we can actually do this in the browser. So with ESP Web Tools, projects that offer open source firmware for microcontrollers now get a single button that they can put right there in the instructions on how to getting started. When the user presses this button, the browser asks them to connect their device. They will, the ESP Web Tools will identify which microcontroller has been connected, automatically pick the right version, and install the software. Now, the second step is to get your microcontroller with the installed software connected to your wireless network so it can become part of your smart home. The way it used to be with IoT gadgets is that it would spin up a wireless access point, you would connect to it from your phone, and then send your credentials over. But this is really difficult because your phone might be like, oh, this Wi-Fi has no internet, we're going over LTE data, and it's once you try sending some credentials and it's wrong, you're disconnected. It was a pain. Modern IoT gadgets, however, all use Bluetooth to send the credentials over. But when we were looking around, there was no open standard that was free to use that implemented Bluetooth provisioning. So we created our own. We created improv Wi-Fi that works either over Bluetooth and serial, and will get your devices connected to the internet. We also added SDKs, so that's very easy to add to your iOS, Android, or website. Now, we also added improv back into ESP Web Tools. So now this button to install the software will also configure the wireless access and helps you add it to your smart home, all in a single flow. And we've seen great adoption of this. Big projects like Tesmoda, WLED, ESP Easy have already adopted this and have made it part of their website. Finally, with Home Assistant, we want to help users tackle the climate crisis. And one way we want to do this is to help make your home use as little energy as possible. But before you can start optimizing your energy usage, you need to know how much energy you're using. So this year, we added energy management to Home Assistant to allow users to know how much energy am I using, when am I using this energy, and how much emissions was being generated for the energy that I have been using. Now, this kind of process of energy management has two parts. We need to gather the information, and then we need to process and organize this information. Now, Home Assistant does the process and organization part, but we realized that there were no good tools that could gather this information and keep this data local. So we built that. Together with the community, we built two ESPHome-based devices. The one on the left is Home Assistant Glow, the yellow one. It was created by Nabu Casa intern Klaas Schoutsen. He built this. This device will observe an activity LED that's available on a lot of energy meters and can turn this into a kilowatt-hour usage being used by your home. The one on the right is called Slimmer Laser. It will connect to energy meters with a P1 port and also send real-time energy usage plus gas usage and make this available to your smart home. Oh, and the Slimmer Laser we made together with Marcel Zuidwijk. All right, that's all I had talking about our vision for the open home. I hope it was useful. And well, I guess back to you, Dr. Zies.
Thank you, Paulus. You surprised me. I didn't know about the Home Assistant Glow. That's a new thing to me. No, I hadn't heard about that. That's really exciting. I have to check into that. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for putting all that together. That was a really nice summary. Couple things that I got out of that I saw some people say in the chat as well is, and I want to thank you for your determination to stick with your values, with the values that we all really feel are important as privacy and the freedom to kind of make our homes do what we want it to do without relying on somebody else. You said a couple things about kind of a couple times you said, well, that didn't exist, so we created it. Like that spirit, like that's what makes this community great. You know, that's one of the things that brings us all together. We all have in common. So thank you.
Yeah, actually, this reminds me, the Home Assistant Glow and Slimmer Laser, both of those are open source, right? So you can actually just build them yourself. The Slimmer Laser you can also buy, so it's like prefabricated. And Home Assistant Glow, they're actually making a version. They're working on it that you could also just buy and put in your home.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And then the ESP Web Tools. I wonder if everybody really catches the vision of that and how transformative that change really is. I've used it. I've played around with it a little bit with the WLED implementation of it, and it is a game changer. It's absolutely a different world compared to a year ago when you would buy a D1 Mini or Node MCU and try and find the right firmware and get the ESP tools thing working on your computer and getting it all set up. And then the Wi-Fi problems, trying to get that. I still have people have problems with that. Having solved all that with a USB cable it's good, miraculous.
I think, the biggest thing that people struggled with in the end was like, what is the IP address of this device? How do I find it, right? And that's just also solved. It's really solid.
Fantastic.
We're going to have a demo about this later. We're actually having Christian from the creator of Air Cookie on, and he will show it off.
Awesome. All right. Well, who's up next? We got Dominic and Martin. Dominic and Martin are going to come on now, and they're going to talk to us about the Z-Wave JS.
Hi.
So, fellas, how's it going?
Fine.
It's great.
Great. All right, welcome. Well, take it away. Tell us what you got to tell us.
All right, I think I'm going to start with this. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Dominic. You could say I'm the crazy guy behind Z-Wave JS. I think many of you have already noticed that Home Assistant has switched their Z-Wave integration in the last year, and they switched to Z-Wave JS, a project I created, and I got some time here on air to talk to you about it. First, what it is, why it exists, what it can do, and what the future will bring. Maybe for starters, a short word about me. I'm a mechanical engineer, but I do a lot of software development in my free time, just similar like Paulus said before.
Dominic, don't forget your slides.
Oh, right. Give me a second. There it is. So, like I said, I'm a mechanical engineer, do software development in my free time. And a few years ago, I stumbled into the smart home world, and I've quickly grown to hate these device-specific apps and cloud connection that Paulus talked before. And I think for that reason, I tend to be drawn towards low-level protocols that enable devices to talk to each other in the local sense. For example, I built an integration for the IKEA gateway, which talks over DTLS and CoAP. I've been working on a way to talk to my coffee maker via Bluetooth, and of course, the reason I'm here, Z-Wave. You might ask yourself, what the heck is Z-Wave JS? So simply put, it's a device driver for Z-Wave modules. So USB sticks or Raspberry Pi heads you can put on your GPIO board, and it enables you to talk to Z-Wave devices. So you can fire up an application that uses it, or write a little script and just start controlling your devices with it. It's built in Node.js, so it practically runs anywhere with a little bit of computing power. So not the embedded devices. It's developed from scratch in TypeScript. So I started with figuring out how to talk to these Z-Wave modules. And it's mostly compliant with the Z-Wave specifications. So there are always a few edge cases that have to be handled, but I try to go as close as possible to the specifications. My story is a bit similar to what Paulus said before. A few years ago, I wanted to remote control the heating in some mobile homes, and I wanted to add custom logic and visualization. And by the time I had figured out that Z-Wave is pretty cool, I knew a bit of JavaScript, among other languages, and I found a project which enabled me to work with this. It had Z-Wave support based on Open Z-Wave at the time. And just a couple of weeks later, I had a solution based on Node.js. It was running on multiple Raspberry Pis, had a centralized dashboard for visualization. And yeah, it was working. So I was pretty hyped. And I had great plans. So I bought new devices only to figure out, oh, it doesn't work. So I waited a bit because there was open work going on in Open Z-Wave for integration. I built other things, including the IKEA device integration I talked about. I tried helping out in Open Z-Wave in the repository, but that didn't go very far. And well, my device started to turn yellow, but it wasn't supported yet. So I haven't even used it at the point I was here 2 years later. And as you can guess, I wasn't that hyped anymore. So I said to myself, well, how hard can it be? Well, I tend to say I've never been so wrong. Z-Wave is pretty hard, and I didn't have to reverse engineer everything like before. So to put it in numbers, over the last few years, I've changed roughly 2.2 million lines, although that is slightly inflated by log files. My repository has more than 4,600 commits, which add up to just over 100,000 lines of TypeScript. and that does not include the repository board, the config browser, or any user interface built on it. We have about 2,000 configuration files for devices, those where we define the available configuration options, etc. And many of those are handcrafted, although we could import a bit. And if you look at the GitHub stars history, you can see it started a while back. It was going on slowly until about a year ago, where the first project started using it really, which is Z-Wave JS to MQTT. And not much later, Home Assistant switched, and you could see it skyrocket from there. Yeah. So with that support, it has grown quite big in the last year. We do collect statistics from those who have enabled sending them. Thanks for that. They are pretty helpful because on one hand, we can figure out how Z-Wave JS is used on a high level. And on the other hand, we can use it to convince manufacturers to work with us and make their devices better for everyone. So just yesterday, we crossed the 10,000 homes border. So we have now just over 10,000 networks controlled with about 13.3 devices per network, which is pretty large compared to what some manufacturers say. We've figured out that very, very few people are using Windows or Mac OS, although it is possible. You can do it. I'm actually developing on Windows. What's also interesting that more than half of these homes are controlled using an AOTech Gen 5 stick or something similar. They are not so easy to distinguish. And although we distinguish between roughly 2,000 devices, the most 5 popular ones each make up between 1.5 and 2.7% of the total count. So there are a lot of devices, but not so many are actually used. So enough with the numbers. I want to show you what Z-Wave JS can do. It's a mostly standards compliant open source Z-Wave driver. We support the 500 and 700 Z-Wave sticks and the Raspberry Pi heads. Currently, we have support for 53 command classes. Those are the things that make devices work. They define how the messages are exchanged. We support both security protocols, that's security S2 and S0, the older one. I think we're actually the first one to support security S2 and Smart Start, which just makes it super easy to include devices. So you scan a QR code and a few seconds later the device is included and that's it. We support over-the-air firmware updates. We are also among the first, if not the first, to do that. So it's very easy to upgrade end devices now. We support backupping and restoring the controller memory. So in case something really goes wrong, you can just revert to a previous point where it just still worked. There's extensive documentation for the developer. But most importantly, my remote control works, which is the whole point why I started this. And fun fact, it just took 5 months longer than waiting for OpenZ-Wave. Yeah. But there are still great plans. So in the near future, I plan to add more command classes. I'm actually working right now on health diagnostic tools. So it's much easier to figure out where a network is suboptimal, where are the delays, where's a bad connection between devices, because that's not very easy to figure out if all you have to work with is a UI that doesn't expose it. I'm also working on a migration tool for migrating between older and those newer 700 series sticks. So you don't have to repair and re-include 200 devices. I plan to add support for upgrading the controller firmware, which is a bit different than the over-the-air update. And well, further down the line, the new Z-Wave long range, and at the end of the line, basically certification. So that's the big goal here. And besides working on features, there's another agenda I've I've always at the back of my mind, because I want to try and fix the Z-Wave ecosystem by convincing more manufacturers to work with us and by enforcing the standard, because I think many Z-Wave users have seen that there are some devices that don't work correctly, and the manufacturers have excuses like the device is certified, that's not our mistake, but it works in some other software. Those softwares usually add workarounds for device-specific bugs. Or the worst thing I've heard in the last few weeks, well, we are not going to fix this. We have a new device now, buy it. So what I want to do with Z-Wave JS is make it easy to fix bugs by simply making it easy to upgrade the firmware on those devices, and well, not allow the manufacturers to hide behind these excuses. So of course, mistakes happen. So Z-Wave is very complicated. It's very hard to get it right. And if I've learned anything in those last 4 years, it's exactly this. So it's hard. It's really hard. To give you an examples, there are things called associations and endpoints that enable sub-devices or automatic reports. And there are just so many ways to implement and to combine them. So there's no best practice, no way to check what's the correct way to use them, and everyone does it differently. So of course there are mistakes to be expected. And the specifications are very complicated, and if they are not 100% clear, things will be done wrong. So sadly, one has to say a lot of devices are buggy, and especially cheap manufacturers don't care about it. So one thing I want to fix, or I want to encourage users to do, is to buy those devices where the manufacturers do care. And I think because it's not worth working around everything, we have the chance to, if we get big enough and refuse to work around these bugs, and those are fixable mistakes, it will make the Z-Wave ecosystem a better place, because manufacturers will create better devices, and everyone will benefit from it. So to summarize, don't get me wrong, Z-Wave is great protocol, and I try to make it better with Z-Wave JS. So at this point, let's see in action, and I'm giving over to Martin.
Thanks, Dominic. So let's see. So my name is Martin Hjelmare, and I'm working as a core developer with Home Assistant for Nabu Casa. Dominic introduced the Z-Wave JS project, and now we're going to look at how easy it is to set up the integration in Home Assistant. So we go to the configuration page, and then the devices and services. This page was formerly known as the integrations page. The first thing you'll need to set up Z-Wave JS is a Z-Wave serial controller. The most popular ones are USB sticks that can easily be plugged into the computer running Home Assistant. And I've got this AOTEC C Stick 7. And we plug that into the computer. So the AOTEC C Stick 7 is a 700 series controller, and this means that it supports the latest features of Z-Wave, like Smart Start, S2 security, longer range using less power, and faster communication. So if you're buying a Z-Wave controller today, we recommend you get one that is 700 series. Not all USB Z-Wave sticks support the USB discovery in Home Assistant, but we tried to add the most popular ones to the list. If you have a controller that is not supported yet, you're welcome to open an issue in our core repository with some information on the stick, and we'll try to add support for it. So now you can see that the discovered card for Z-Wave JS has showed up in the integrations page for the controller we plugged in. And I can click on configure and then confirm that I want to set up the Z-Wave JS integration with this controller. So now in the background, the integration will install and configure the official Z-Wave JS add-on that will run the driver. And since the driver is written in TypeScript, Home Assistant can't run the driver directly, but will use a WebSocket to communicate with the driver so that the integration written in Python can talk to the driver written in TypeScript. We already have the correct USB path, but here we can enter security keys for the controller. For example, if you've already run the controller with one of the old Z-Wave integrations or with another smart home software that also relied on Open Z-Wave, you may already have the S0 security key, and then you should enter that here. So you don't need to reset the controller and add all your devices again. We're going to set up from scratch, so we don't need to enter any keys here, and the add-on will generate all the keys for us automatically. So I click confirm, and the add-on is started by the integration. The integration will also try to connect to the add-on to make sure that the WebSocket connection works. Okay, success. We click finish, and we've set up the integration. So far, we only got one device, though, the controller itself, and that's not so much fun. So let's add another device. And I thought we could automate the Christmas lights behind me in the window. So I click on Configure to reach the configuration panel of the Z-Wave JS integration. And here we can see the network status, we can add and remove devices, we can look at the logs of the driver. We want to add a new device, and we want to use the Smart Start feature to do this. And this means that we'll scan a QR code on the device. Now, scanning a QR code requires HTTPS access to Home Assistant. We recommend scanning the QR code printed on the box or on a label on the device. If the QR code is printed directly on the device, the resolution of the QR code print may be low, and then it may be hard to scan it. So I have this AOTech Smart Switch 7. It supports Smart Start, and it has a QR code printed on the device and also on the box of the device. We'll scan the QR code on the box. So I click Add Device and then scan QR code, and now I can scan the QR code on the box here. Okay, success. So now we have scanned the device and provisioned it. And this means that the controller knows about the device, and it will include it automatically as soon as we power it on. So then we can click on the Provision Devices button to see a list of all the devices we have provisioned. So here you can see now we have provisioned the device, but it's not included yet. So to include it, we just plug the switch into the socket. And after a while, the interview of the device will start, and it takes a while, and then it's ready. Now we can click the devices list and see the devices. And here we have the device. And we can see that it's alive and ready, and it has been included with S2 Authenticated Security class. Okay, so that works. So that was it for this Z-Wave JS integration demo, and Smart Start support will ship with the release of today. So if you have a 700 series controller and a device that supports Smart Start, you can try this out yourself. Finally, I'd like to thank all the team that has been working on all the different parts to make this possible, from the driver to the core, all the way to the front end. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, fellas. Thanks, Martin, Dominic. I have a confession. I don't have any Z-Wave devices. And this is the first time that I'm feeling left out because of it. So good job. Good job kind of bringing Z-Wave to a point that, I mean, for me at least, that I feel like I am missing out on something now that I need to probably to make up on. And it sounds like as of the new release of Home Assistant, if we get the AOTech 700 series dongle, that would be the way to go to get started, right? For some of these easy integration steps.
Yeah, it makes it really easy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, hey, thanks again. I'm glad you guys are doing the work you're doing, and I'm glad we get the opportunity to let you show it off a little bit in a platform like this. So very cool. Very
Thanks.
cool. All right, so up next, we have my homie and yours giving us a presentation about Home Assistant, the Franck.
Well, that sounded really.
Yeah, right.
Oh, hi,
Yeah.
I'm already in the image. Hi. That's cool.
You live, bro?
Yeah, I'm live, right? You too. And that's a question actually. I want to hit up that one right directly. I see a lot of people asking in chat, is this live? So somebody actually challenged this, and I should shout a word. So proof. That's it, right? This is the proof. He wanted to hear you word proof. I don't know.
All right. So you got some cool stuff to talk about. And then I'm very excited about when you're done, we're going to have a little break and you and I are just going to hang out and visit for a bit. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that would be cool. We've not done that enough lately. So
amen. Yeah. Amen. All right, man. Well, show us what you got to show us.
Well, here we go. Hold on. Can I get a bigger sheet? Please. Thank you. So, hi, and in case you have missed it in all the chaos just right now, or don't know anyway, I'm Frank, and I'm going to talk about Home Assistant today. I'm going to take you onto a journey back into the future that we have been creating for Home Assistant in 2021. And it has been an insanely busy year. So I'm going to jump right into it because, well, I got a lot of sheets, actually. So let's talk about numbers first, because, well, we have quite a bit of numbers. A whopping total of 1,282 people have contributed source code or documentation to the Home Assistant's main projects in 2021. And they have been able to do almost 16,000 new features and fixes and documentation tweaks. That is an insanely high number. And in total, those changes touched almost 20,000 files in 2021, with over 1 million new lines added to those files. 1 million. 300,000 lines have been removed as well, by the way, so we cleaned up nicely after us. But those are some really impressive numbers. And our issue trackers did good as well. Almost 11,000 issues have been reported, but we've managed to close more than 11,000. So yeah, we went down in numbers. So that's good. We managed to keep up. 160 times we have released a version of Home Assistant this year, of which 98 were beta and pre-releases, so those you probably didn't see unless you joined the beta. But 12 of those were major releases, one each month, including the release of today, of course. A total of 59 bug fix releases we did as well to get bug fixes out as quickly as possible. And the project at this point is still growing. So that's really nice. Let's check the next sheet here. We can see that the project is still growing. Since 2014, Home Assistant has been consistently growing, and especially at the end, it goes steeper. So that's really cool to see. But of course, it's not just coding numbers that matters, right? These numbers are all cool, but Home Assistant is not just a piece of software. More importantly, we're a community too. So let's look at a community. And our community is growing. For example, our Discord chat server currently has over 75,000 members. 15,000 of those have joined in 2021. And when we talk about the community, we cannot skip our community forums. Around 35,000 new users joined our forums this year, and bringing the total up to 115,000 users. And you all have been very busy because you guys have produced 300,000 new posts this year. 300,000 times somebody posted a reaction or a question or shouted for help. And you guys all seem to like each other very much, as the little heart icon that shows with every post has been pressed 88,000 times in 2021. So share the love, right? Another part of our community can be found on Facebook. And besides our Facebook page, there's an official Facebook group too. And a total of 46,500 people have joined our Facebook group. The Home Assistant subreddit has been growing exceptionally fast this year. Early this year, we celebrated and were blown away by the fact that we had 100K members on our subreddit. But actually, when I was creating these slides here, I discovered we're almost hitting the 150,000 members, which is just incredible. Really cool to see. All right. Enough with the numbers, right? Like, they are nice and such, but what have we actually done this year, right? And we have done some serious stuff. We made some serious stuff happen in 2021, but it is a lot. So let me pick up some of the highlights and show the big things that actually came here in 2021. And, well, maybe not show it. Let's start about the things you actually don't see. The things we take for granted and the things you don't notice. The things that I do not write up in the release notes and that you read when I release stuff, right? And this is about all the effort that went into improving Home Assistant stability and the effort that went into extending our automated tests and to ensure that bugs we have experienced, the time zone, the bugs, never happen again. So all that effort that went into improving in performance, for example, that's a big one too. And that's one of the things that actually is a little bit visible nowadays in Home Assistant. If you go to your configuration panel, you can actually see which integration was slow during startup. And if you're starting up Home Assistant, it will actually show you in the bottom which integration is currently still processing on startup. So that's a little bit visible. Anyway, if I may guess, more than half of all our contributions and energy put into our Home Assistant project goes actually into this invisible thing. And it's actually pretty amazing. So I want to do a big shout out to everybody that has been taken up one of these tasks to improve this year. It's really nice work, so thank you very much. And a result of this, all this invisible work here is reduction in repetitive code we have in our code base. And this is all maybe a bit technical, but I still wanted to show you this one. All this improvement that is done allows us to do the same with less code, making things more explicit and simple and clean and easier to understand when a developer looks at the Home Assistant source code for the very first time. And if you take a closer look at the sheet that is currently shown, well, I'm pretty sure you could see that this is a temperature and humidity sensor. And this is how we describe them nowadays, which is really clean. So this is great when writing and maintaining integrations. Not only does it take way less code to write one now, it also becomes way easier and takes up way less time. So that's really cool and really nice. Then I want to talk about Z-Wave JS, or Z-Wave JS. Some people still say that, right? Z-Wave JS. Anyways, Z-Wave JS has its own piece during the State of the Open Home, right? We just watched it happen. So I'm not going to go too deep in this subject. But for me personally, though, when I was creating these sheets and looking into everything I should put on this presentation, I was completely blown away that Z-Wave JS actually landed this year. It's a product of 2021. It came in February. But it feels like it has been around for much longer. So Z-Wave JS actually completely changed how we use Z-Wave at Home Assistant. So definitely a big mark in 2021, right? We also added open source, publicly available analytics for Home Assistant. Analytics that respects one's privacy and is opt-in only. Analytics as we think it should be. And we use these analytics to influence Home Assistant development priorities and convince manufacturers to add local control and privacy-focused features. And it actually works, right? We've seen increasing interest from manufacturers, and we have been using it to prioritize certain development tasks, like the performance improvements. We are grateful to see so many of you have enabled the statistics of the analytics on their systems. 112,000 instances. This is a screenshot from this morning, actually. And it helps us a lot. So if you have enabled those, thank you so much. We are really grateful. I cannot express it enough. And if you haven't enabled it, please consider doing so. You can go to the URL in the bottom that is shown, and it will provide instructions how to do that. In March, we introduced My Home Assistant. And My Home Assistant is a privacy-focused button, or links, allowing things like documentation and weblogs or any other website to link to specific pages in your Home Assistant, all without anybody ever knowing the actual URL of your Home Assistant instance. And it can do blazingly nice, like small little things, like linking to an integration or startup adding an integration, or link directly to an add-on on your own system. And it really shines in chat and forums too. If you're helping your fellow Home Assistant homie out, you can just give them links to their own instance. It's very cool to see those little buttons like pop up everywhere nowadays, besides our documentation, of course. With the introduction of home energy management in Home Assistant got a complete new focus to its added a complete new focus to its portfolio. Like, this is completely something new, right? It's not just control, but we got like energy now. We wanted to do our part to take up the climate crisis, right? By helping you to monitor your energy usage, helping you to transition to more sustainable energy, and, well, maybe save a buck or two in the process on energy. And the energy dashboard, it looks amazing. I think it's super functional. It looks really slick. I like the tabs, how you can do like day, week, and month, and look at like your usage for longer periods of time. And arguably, this is one of the biggest change and features that Home Assistant added this year. I think this is by far the biggest. It has been worked on for months. And then in August we shipped long-term statistics. And this is actually great because Home Assistant now stores long-term data more efficiently and is able to graph this data over longer periods of time. And it does that blazingly fast. Like, these graphs just show up in milliseconds. But this feature was actually developed to support and drive the home energy management feature. But we made it available for every other sensor too. Adding to that a beautiful new Lovelace card makes it all complete, right? We also introduced the select entity. And we already had something like this, right? The drop-down helper, or if you're more into YAML, you probably know the input select entity. However, those were not available for integrations to provide. And even though this entity hasn't been around for that long, it has been adopted quite a lot and became pretty much a common entity in Home Assistant in a very short time. So that's pretty nice. Let's talk a bit about organization too, because organizing everything in your Home Assistant is important, especially when you have a lot in it. And most of us will have a lot of stuff in their Home Assistant. In my case, it keeps on growing, right? And you can put your devices into areas, which helps a lot already. But additionally, Home Assistant actually knows how everything is connected and used. Like, internally, it makes one of those like graphs, like big diagrams, actually with all the devices and scenes and integrations and areas and automations and all these things Home Assistant has, and it will like knows how things are connected, related, and intertwined with each other. And one of the nice things added this year is that all this information has been put into use for navigation and filtering. Almost all the tables in Home Assistant can now be searched or filtered using this information. And if you look at this screenshot right here, my automations are currently filtered by things that affect my living room area. And Home Assistant actually knows which automations have effect on the living room. And this is based on things like devices that are in that room or entities, and scenes that I've been using that are using devices that are in my living room, and so on and so on. So I can actually filter my automations using all that information. And this is actually really cool because this goes beyond manual organization, right? And since we've all seen the number of devices and entities grow, we had a different problem. things became overwhelming pretty quickly. If you have looked at, for example, the auto-generated Lovelace dashboard, that thing could be pretty large, especially if your system grew over time. That became less helpful. And to deal with that, we introduced entity categorization. Entity categorization distinguished between primary and non-primary entities of a device. So primary entities are the entities we care the most about. So for example, for the media player entity of a Sonos speaker is actually something we care about. And the light entity of a bulb is something we care about. But non-primary entities like the battery status of this thing or the power on behavior of this thing are less helpful, right? These entities are not things we use on a daily basis, so they should not be everywhere. And using this entity categorization, we have now the ability to, for example, generate a more useful and less overwhelming Lovelace dashboard by just ignoring all those secondary non-primary entities. This makes things look nice and neat. And this is personally one of my favorite things. This is the Visit Device button. And this was added to the device page. If you, on the left is now visible, there's a little button called Visit Device. And these buttons link to the original web interfaces of the devices, from where they can be controlled or configured. So in the past, you would have to figure out its IP address, remember its host names, or wherever you needed to go for the device. But integrations instead can now deep link you directly into the right location. So in this screenshot, if I would click the Visit Device button on this WLED device, it will bring me straight into the native web interface of WLED that controls that LED strip, which is really cool. This is a really small and helpful change. And it is probably a change that has seen the highest adoption rate because it was so easy to implement. So hundreds of integration actually support this already in a very short time, which is really nice. Next up, another favorite, the icon picker. Adding nice and matching icons to your entities makes all the difference, right? It makes a difference how your Home Assistant looks and feels. And finding those icons was always a little bit clumsy. You would go to the Material Design Icons website or have a Chromium browser plugin or something, and then you find the one that you need, then you remember the code that it had, and then go back into Home Assistant to edit that entity and put in that code you just found. If you didn't like copy paste it well, like I often did, then you go back again. But that all changed, right? We now have the icon picker, and the icon picker was actually contributed, so that's really cool. And this is a change that makes all the difference. As you can see in this animation right now on screen, you can just search for the icon you want and select it, and it's done. And as always, we've made it extendable, allowing custom icon developers to add their sets to Home Assistant and use the same feature here. I also want to do a little bit of a shout out to the Material Design Icons project. Like, they have been keeping icons to their project and to Home Assistant for that matter this year. It's just really cool. And a lot of those icons are actually for Home Assistant itself. So this year, hundreds of icons alone, like that's just amazing. Thank you so much, guys. We love you. So these were like the things you really like the most, I think, things you see the most. But let's talk a bit about some advanced capabilities, right? Like, some of these things might not be your cup of tea, but there is some amazing stuff in this part. So let's take a closer look. In April, that's Dutch. In April, the automation debugger landed. And for the first time, we had some detailed step-by-step insight into how our automations ran. Like, we all know this, right? Why didn't that light turn on? Why isn't this thermostat adjusted? Or why isn't this automation not working? Like, it's like really frustrating if that happens. But this helps. And now I lose my train of thought. We all had to deal with this, right? But the debugger actually helps us explaining why this happens. So Really cool tool, which in July was expanded a bit to add the same functionality for scripts too, which is really powerful. Referencing other entities and triggers and conditions. This is a I think a big one actually. We have added the ability to reference other entities and triggers and condition. And this removed a lot of the template logic and condition logic that was previously needed in many places. This is an example that shows 2 sensors. One is indoors, one is outdoors. And it sends me a notification when the outdoor temperature rises above the indoors temperature and tells me to close the window. This is extremely helpful in the summer. It's winter right now, so I probably would ignore it, but this is a lovely and clean syntax that is added. So I think this is cool. Then we add trigger-based template entities. Template sensors and binary sensors can now be created based on triggers. And this allows for creating sensors that update based on a trigger, just like in automations, like even events. Any trigger can be used. And this example here shows a binary sensor, a binary motion sensor from NetAtmo. I hope I say it correctly, NetAtmo. And this NetAtmo sends an event when there's motion detected. And if that triggers, it turns the binary sensor to on when the movement event comes in and turns it off again 60 seconds later. And this is really nice if you wanted to create a binary sensor, but only events are available. We haven't forgotten about templates either, by the way. The biggest change this year to templates is probably its error handling and reporting. So for example, it warns you now when you're using non-existing variables in your template, which can be really helpful because in the past it would just say nothing and you would have no clue why it didn't work. So it is way more strict now, which some people find annoying when we released it, but actually it helps a lot when you develop new stuff. Another thing that was really hard in templates is working with dates. And so we added asDateTime that can create a datetime object from a timestamp and the today add, which also returns a datetime object based on a given time you gave it for today. And these 2 little things definitely makes working with dates easier. So that's kind of nice. And added to that, we added something that is for areas and devices. Working with areas and devices has been considered pretty much a UI thing for quite some time, right? It's not meant to be used in templates or in YAML. But with these new added functions, that hold no longer true. We can now directly work with areas and iterate on them and get their names and properties. So that's really cool that that has been added to see that bridge being closed. Let's see, what do we have next? The Home Assistant operating system. Let's talk a bit about that. The Home Assistant operating system installation type actually is the thing we almost forget it exists at times. Besides, well, if you're a bit like me, I just press the upgrade button once in a while. Probably just like today, as the HAOS 7.0 will become available today, or it actually is already available, so you could update to that already. But this all is actually really great. We should forget this, right? We don't have to be system administrators anymore, and we don't have to think about configuring and maintaining an operating system. We can just focus on automating our homes instead. But meanwhile, tons of things are happening continuously in the background. So to name some things like kernel updates and more drivers for things like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth devices and support for BTRFS if you're into that. And we even have new services that help detecting the time zone correctly, making sure everything runs on time when you start up your device, which is kind of important if you run a home automation system, I guess. But one of the bigger things we should talk about is moving the data disk. And this feature actually has been around for quite a while already, and it has been mentioned last year in the conference as well. But it was a bit really hard to use and not that user-friendly, so it probably didn't get the attention it deserved. But now, what this feature allows you to do is to use an additional USB drive with, for example, additional capacity with ease. Home Assistant can now use such a storage device to store all its data on, relieving stress and wear, for example, from the SD card, and save that lifetime a bit. But this year it has been made accessible for everyone, straight from the UI. Connect your new storage device and go to the Move Data Disk feature in the UI, and Home Assistant will move all your existing data to your new drive, and well, it keeps using the drive from that point on. And that's done, right? And in this screenshot, it shows a Raspberry Pi, but that's just because this is the screen, the pictures we found and found the most recognizing at this point. But it actually works with any device supported by Home Assistant, the Home Assistant Blue and the upcoming Home Assistant Yellow, which is pretty neat. USB and DHCP discovery. These are two new methods of discovery added this year. And this allows Home Assistant to help you set up integrations quickly and with ease in a very user-friendly way, actually. Most notably is the USB discovery that has been added. So once you've plugged in, as Martin has shown, your brand new Z-Wave stick into your Home Assistant device, the Home Assistant operating system and the Home Assistant supervisor together will actually figure out stuff and notify Home Assistant Core all about this new USB device that has been plugged in. And based on the signature that is provided by the USB device, Home Assistant will look for an integration that can work with that thing. And if it finds one, it will show up as discovered, as shown in the screenshot. And you're now just a single click away from using it. I think that's pretty impressive, actually. And talking about making things more accessible, Home Assistant Yellow, formerly known as Home Assistant Amber, got successfully funded in October. And Home Assistant Yellow is our take on the ideal Home Assistant platform, right? It's open, it's configurable, it has a built-in wireless module for Zigbee, which can later be used for Matter, expandable fast SSD storage via the M.2 slot, and there's optional support for Power over Ethernet, which, if you're using that, could be really nice. Thank you to everyone who pledged for Home Assistant Yellow, by the way. We are very proud that we're able to make it happen. And if you missed the crowdfunding campaign, you can still go to that page, to the campaign page, and order one if you'd like to. So I want to add a little status update on the Home Assistant Yellow. Recently, we've received the first enclosures, and we're working on optimizing the injection molding process. And this photo shows one of the test enclosures without the full surface finish at this point. But this is a bit how it will look like. And we're working on sourcing all the parts that we need to get the production started. And we also had to redesign bits of the board to avoid some of the electronic parts that we've not been able to source. But things are looking good. Currently, one of the critical parts, which we are still awaiting for delivery date confirmation, is the Silicon Labs module for the Zigbee stuff. We have ordered this part 6 months ago already, well within the specified lead time, I must say. But the component shortage seems to affect Silicon Labs quite hard. However, at this point, we're still hopeful to get the parts in time. All right. There has been much more stuff in 2021. But the time is limited, so we should not go on. But things like the Siren entity, and we added a UI for services that was picked up from blueprints, and many more advanced features. But we have to stick to some of the big ones, right? Let's talk a bit about today, because today we are releasing Home Assistant Core 2021.12, which will be the final release of this year. And yes, for this final release, we will be adding and improving some things to close this year even better. If you have paid close attention and seen me live before or seen me write some stuff, I've been promising something press-worthy for this release a couple of times. So here we go. I present you the button entity. Yes, it's an actual button, and yes, it's press-worthy, definitely. So, Frank, tell me, please, we already have a switch, and why do we need a button? And I think that is a really good question, and something I already heard a couple of times. Well, a switch actually has a state. It's either on or off. but a button does not have a state. So it's best compared to a push button or a momentary switch. In the Lovelace card displayed in the top of the sheet here, some use cases are shown that are actually already available in this release. For example, a button to restart your Shelly device, or a button to update the firmware of a WLED device, or a button to make a light blink so you know which one it was, or a button to reset, like a filter usage of your air purifier or something. And of course, all these button entities can be used in your automations, just like any other entity. And we've made sure all your favorite voice assistants, whatever you've been using, can work with them as well. And lastly, MQTT and ESPHome both added support for these new buttons too. So this allows you to use this shiny new entity in your awesome DIY project as of today. This release ships with a brand new configuration panel. It has really completely been revamped. Everything is now more neatly organized and compacted, and they added a touch of color too, which I think is really nice. The supervisor panel is gone. It has been completely merged into this configuration panel now, which made the sidebar item for the supervisor obsolete, so that has been removed. And the same has been done for the configuration menu item if you use the Companion app. That's now also in like the main configuration panel. So that item is also gone from the sidebar. And lastly, all core and OS and add-on updates will actually show in the top of this panel. As you can see right now, there's an update for Home Assistant Core pending, which probably should be the case for all of you right now because it's available now. All these changes make this new configuration panel the place to go, like the one place to go for all your configuration-related tasks. Neatly organized in a single place, which I think is pretty great that don't know where to go. Like sometimes the supervisor, sometimes there. So this is really great. It's now nicely centralized. We've redesigned the areas. The area panel has been redesigned completely, and instead of a list of areas, it now shows a card for each area. And this card shows a picture of the area. Wait, Frank, did you say picture? Yes, I did say picture. You can now upload a picture for your area straight from the Home Assistant front end, allowing you to make these areas look just as amazing as in the screenshot right here. But that's not all. We also added a brand new Lovelace card you can see in the bottom left. And this card uses the picture that you have added to your area, and it auto-populates the card with the devices you have assigned to that area. So it shows the temperature and like a button for your lights or switches and your fan or air conditioning that is there. There's actually a ton more added in this release, and I would definitely recommend you to check out the release notes that are on our website right now. But I think this concludes it for the big things for Home Assistant Core for 2021. And the big things for 2021.12, which will be available now. Home Assistant development is funded by Nabu Casa. Nabu Casa's Home Assistant Cloud. And it allows people like me and everybody else, you can see right in this sheet right here, to work on these amazing projects we have every day. And today we're announcing one of the most requested features of Home Assistant Cloud. Annual subscriptions. Having the possibility to subscribe annually has been requested a lot. And we're launching this feature to subscribe annually in the US in February of 2022. Other regions will be made available later at a later date, so that will be announced later. Okay, so for the final piece, I want to say thanks to a couple of companies. And these companies actually support the Home Assistant project. So they provide us with tooling and resources that allows us to do what we do. So I want to thank Microsoft. I want to thank GitHub. I want to thank Discord, and I want to thank Netlify. I want to thank Cloudflare, and I want to thank Localize, because you guys are seriously the best. We love your tools, and thank you so much for providing those. And for the last bit, I want to say thanks to all of you. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for watching me, and thank you for using Home Assistant. Thank you for helping each other out. It has been an amazing year, and I'm looking forward to 2022. So, yeah, Dr. Cease, are you still here? I see him.
I'm here. I've been watching the whole thing, writing down all this stuff. I'm gonna have to go back and catch up.
No, I'm going. No, right? You missed something?
Well, you had a couple surprises in there. I know you've kept me up on most of the things, but that's impressive. That's amazing bunch of stuff. So thanks, man.
I'm going to move my screen so I can actually look at you. So I think there's now a break, right?
Yes, we have a break now. So for anybody that needs to get up and get a drink or something to eat or visit the services of whatever kind, have at it. And we're going to be here for probably about 15, 20 minutes, I think, is what the schedule said for the plan. So, wow. So I can't wait to try areas. I'm interested to see.
Hold on. The thought.
Yes.
I've been requested this a lot. So
I've missed that hat. I've missed seeing that hat, my friend. I have missed seeing that hat. Oh, that's awesome. And I'm sad I didn't bring my USA one because then I had that last year, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, that was some spontaneous stream we did, and then you came out with a hat as well.
Yep. Cool, I don't even know who bought it for me or how it ended up in my closet, but yeah, that was fun.
Sorry, I'm like, you're losing your train of thought, right? What was the?
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling around.
Profession, right? It's our profession. We can do this.
This is unscripted. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, that's right. But you had a question about areas?
Oh, I was talking about areas. Yeah. So areas, it's going to be interesting for me because I know most of the time or a lot of the time when I've added new things, I've put it in an area, but I don't actually know what all I've put in areas and what I didn't, or, so it'll be interesting for me to go and just try and make one of those areas pages and see what things populate into it.
Right. Well, there's a little trick. If you go to the device, like the device panel, so if you go into the new configuration screen and you click on devices, then you can actually sort by area. You can sort a column on area. And the things that don't have an area will actually show up on top because, well, they're empty. So that's a nice little neat trick if you want to know which devices are not currently categorized into an area. That's kind of helpful.
One of the things that I was thinking about as you were going through all this stuff, and I remember, it's been years of watching Home Assistant develop, and there was certainly a time where it wasn't something that maybe was ready for your mom or for your neighbor or something, right?
Right.
But boy, I'm having a hard time right now thinking of why it wouldn't be available to just anybody at this point. Like, I don't know that it's any harder to use than just the Amazon Home app or the something like that. I think it's there. I mean, you were talking about the auto discovery of things. I've got things, I plug something in and it just pops up, and configuration is about as easy as it can be.
Right. And that's something from the latest years, right? Like before you had like the pieces of YAML, which that kind of worked, but the auto discovery is like, that's golden. It's just like, well, you're a WLED guy, just like me. Like if you plug in one of these devices in your network, it's just a single click, right? And it works, which is, it just pops up.
It's amazing.
It's cool.
I have had things pop up I didn't even know were integratable. Like, I don't even remember what it is now off the top of my head, but I remember thinking, oh, I didn't know that had some sort of smart features. I think it was my refrigerator maybe even, or something silly like that. But anyways.
Hey, by the way, I have to ask, are you actually in your Hobbit hole? That's not a background, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I am. Somebody was asking, is this just a fake background? No, this is not a fake background.
No, it's not.
This is my actual Hobbit house. So, yeah, I did.
Cool.
Yeah, man, if you ever come to the States, my friend, if you ever come to the States, we will host you gladly. This is
super
a fun
cool.
place.
It is. It looks like really fun place. And we watched the episode, like the TV program that was made for this, which you did. And I have to say, the Ninja, my girlfriend here, she is like she likes Mrs. C's. So she thinks she's very nice and joyful. So
I mean, she fell asleep. That was
sorry.
She really did fall asleep. There's generators running and saws.
All right, yeah, that part. Yeah.
She just sat down on a pile of wood and put her head down, and she was out. We were working pretty hard.
Yeah. So no, it was really great to watch and really great job there. So actually, cool to see you sitting there. It's kind of unreal, actually. Yeah.
I love it. I spend as much time up here as I can. I've got my Home Assistant yellow in downstairs plugged in, ready to start adding some things. And a lot of this energy stuff that you guys have really been hitting hard is really important in a place like this, because we're off the grid, and how we manage our energy is super important. So there's a lot of things there that are very helpful to us.
What do you have? You have like big battery capacity, right? I've seen glances of little glimpse of your yesterday's live stream.
Yeah,
you have like big battery
packs.
Battery
pack. We got a big battery pack. We have a generator and then solar panels, and it's in a various stages of connectivity currently. One of my biggest things I need to do is, I've got the ability to remote start the generator. And
cool.
I need to make sure that I can make that reliable. That's all. And the power building is a little far away, so I got to make sure that I can make that reliable. But that's one of my biggest, with this Home Assistant Amber, one of the most important things I'm going to need to do is be able to remotely turn on and turn off the generator. Because we have a party up here and had wanted to get here early and turn the heat on. So I had to drive up, hours ahead of everybody else and turn the heat on, where something like this, Nabu Casa, Home Assistant, little relay up there, and click. Now the generator turns on, now the heat starts, and I don't have to drive up here hours ahead of everybody. So little things like that, little new ways to use Home Assistant and all these things to make life good.
Well, the energy feature is certainly a welcome feature then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the way you there were so many, because when I started doing it, when I started using the solar and things at home, our main house, there was a lot of different Lovelace cards, and I was trying to use some of them and trying to make some things up. But what you guys put together there is beautiful, and it works great, and it shows everything. It's really nice. Really nice.
Yeah. I think it is a good way of showing a default, right? Like it has like something that will fit most people. But if it's not your cup of tea, like all these elements are still available, right? So you could create your own version of the dashboard if you would like. Like I've seen some customization of customized versions that added current power usage to it. I can see why people would maybe like that, and like it doesn't say that much about energy. But if you like that, then sure, then go ahead. So I think that's really cool. I think that's the common theme in general, by the way, with Home Assistant. If we do something, then we make it available for everything or for customization. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. I think it looks cool. I use the default one. I think it's already good.
I have a page that's just the default. Well, I just use that default one. I have a couple other sensors too. But one of the stories, Frank, that I love about you, telling about you, is that when you first were streaming, when you first started live streaming, when you first really started working on Home Assistant, you weren't even using it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. It was like for the first year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3/4 to a year. Yeah, that's correct.
But that, I think,
yeah.
That idea that you found this little project and you're like, oh, I can help with this. And there was certainly some things about the community or about the values of the direction of the project that appealed to you at that point, to where you would spend your free time on it just because you wanted to get behind it. Just says a lot, along with what Paulus was saying at the beginning about, the values of the project, of Home Assistant as a project, the community as it's grown and come together, and it's just maintained such a good vibe, good attitude, good people, want to do the right thing, working together.
I think passion is a good term here, right? And that's not just me, but it's like just a lot of people that have a passion for certain things. Like for me, it's developing and making cool things. I don't know. I like to explore. It's for me, it's like, I don't know. It makes my mind like get rest. So that's why I'm always coding and looking for stuff instead of I don't know. But some people like, I don't know, data analytics a lot. And some people do lots of cool stuff with cameras and streams and object detection. And I don't know what else. And if you put all these things and all these part of the community get together, like the chat and the forums and the projects that are built at ESPHome, it's just so cool. And like if you put that all together, I think we have like a great diverse community of different subjects and which all fit together nicely, right? If you go to a specific corner, like 3D printing is pretty popular in our community. Why is that? Why does it fit this community? And the same is with the cameras and everything else. So I don't know. I just like the community and do what we do. And I think we're a bunch of passionate people about some similar subject, whatever it may be. Yeah, something in automation in the home.
I'm looking ahead in my mind's eye and picturing you in, I don't know, maybe 20 years or something like that. You know, maybe with a few more wrinkles, and see, you know, wondering what in the world will be going on at that point. You know, what will we be talking about? What will this have turned into at that point?
I don't know.
I don't either. It's fun.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's just get through 2022.
Yeah, right. At this point, we should be happy with every day and enjoy every day. So I'm okay with that. Yeah. I love what I do every day. That's enough, right? We have our families. It's almost Christmas.
I see. You got that's a nice looking tree back there.
Yeah, and there's even well, it almost fell down. There's even a little home assistant in here.
Oh, look at that.
Oh. 3D print, of course. But yeah, and a lot of stuff the kids made. So that's kind of nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we have missed your streams, my friend. We have we still fondly remember the times, but glad to get a chance to visit and hang out.
You know what I really don't like? I miss most of your streams, mate.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, you're now stuck on the Sunday evening. That's our date night nowadays.
Is it?
Yeah, sure. Like I've been working all week, right? It's kind of nice to have the rest in the weekend and on an evening.
Yeah.
Pick up this point to Sunday evening. So that's why I miss most. I do watch them back there.
You do. I do see you popping in every once in a while. It's been it's been fun doing the 12 streams of Christmas for about
you started
4 or 5 through them, something like that. So I like that because then I get to do it just any old time. I just come home from work in the evening and just sit down and putting together that LED cube was pretty fun the other night.
Yeah.
Haven't got it finished, but you know, it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. So how are we doing on our timing? I don't know. Somebody's going to probably tell us when we're about ready to go back to our timing. I know our next, I think we are doing Air Cookie next. Is that right?
Is Air Cookie coming on?
Let's see. Let me think. Yeah, it is. WLED.
I'm asking, but I have a sheet right here. So
yeah.
All right. Christian and Paulus will be on in a minute. That's cool. I've been looking forward to that. I like WLED. I love it. Like I remember you actually got me into a WLED.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Like you were streaming about it once and playing with the thing and hooking up MQTT, and I was looking at it and I was thinking that could be easier, right?
Well, you certainly made it amazing. I mean, like take the integration between WLED and Home Assistant is flawless. I mean, it's up there with ESPHome as far as just pops in. It just, and then like that thing you pointed to with the go-to device. I know you when you shared that with me not that long ago, that's a game changer. Just to be able to go into Home Assistant, click that little button, and now you can open up the whole full page in the browser of the controls for WLED is awesome.
And it supports the button entity now.
Oh,
that's
the button
this release.
See, that was one of the things I wrote down.
Like, it's such a simple thing. I'm so excited about this one because it's a new concept, right? I'm so excited about this one. So actually, you can now reboot a WLED device or a Shelly device, and you can upgrade them even. Like
I have for a long time been doing things like making a binary sensor, and then I would switch it on and then have a delay and then have it switch back off. Something like, that's how I've been doing it. I've been doing that for my garage door. I've been doing that for my announcements for kids, just a whole bunch of things like that. Now, button entity.
Button entity, yeah, and it works with ESPHome, by the way. That is really cool because you can now just fire an action on your ESPHome device.
Oh, perfect.
For if you're looking for those like custom projects and DIY projects.
Yeah.
But that requires actually today's release, of course, of Home Assistant, but also today's release of ESPHome.
Yeah. Well, I'll be updated. I'm not going to try and update in the middle of this. Who knows what will.
Why not? Like, it's a good 12th stream of Christmas, right? It could be your
That's
last
right.
stream of Christmas, though, if you do it wrongly. But
yeah, we'll go through it. We'll go through some of it tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Well, I'll do a little stream tomorrow, and I'll probably start working on setting up the Home Assistant Yellow here at the Hobbit House tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
That's my hope. Cool. That's my goal.
That thing is going to be amazing. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. All right. I think we've probably spent a break. Have we gone far enough? Give me a nod there, Paulus, if we're ready to go. Okay.
Paulus nods. Yes, Paulus nods.
Like, yeah, come on, man. Come on. You guys quit your yapping.
You guys stop talking. Yeah, he's doing these kinds of moves. We can see him, by the way, so that's kind of nice.
So the last time they ever turned the conference over to me and you at the same time, huh?
Yeah, I think so, right? We could spend a couple of minutes more.
All right. Well, we've given this guy a little bit of an introduction.
But I wanted to say Merry Christmas, by the way, to everybody and to you especially. Thank you for hosting this. Very much appreciated. And good to talk to you.
I'm honored to be a part of it. Good visiting with you, Frank. See you later. All right. Our next presenter is the developer, the main man behind WLED, Christian, also known as Air Cookie, and he's got some cool stuff to share with us. Christian, I love seeing you, man. I'm so happy. And we'll get to chat after you're done with your presentation a little bit. So take it away.
Great. I will give you a short demo on the new ESPHome tools I've integrated with WLED. So now you can not only install WLED via your browser, but you can also configure the Wi-Fi. So you don't have to go to the into your phone's Wi-Fi settings anymore and connect to the WLED access point. It's all very simple in one smooth progress. So let me give you a quick demo of that now. Okay, we should be moving over to my screen share now. Thank you. We can now see the demo here. So I can just hit install, and now you get this pop-up where you can select the port of your board. If you don't see anything here, it might be that you need to install the driver, but in most cases, if you have ever done something with Arduino, for example, it will already be installed. Now you can just go ahead and click connect, and you will get this nice dialog, and now you can install WLED. It will tell you that it will install this WLED 013 beta version, and that all existing data will be erased. Like if you had another project or an earlier version of WLED, then it will erase that for you, so you can start on a clean slate. And then now we will begin the install process. This takes about 1 minute for an ESP8266 or 2 minutes for an ESP32. Right now I have an ESP8266, so that the demo will be a bit quicker. But I also recommend that you keep this page visible, because Chrome will actually slow down the installation, the serial update rate if you go on another tab. But here you can see that it is moving along quite quickly. And now this is the stage. This is already possible since a few months ago. But the real magic will start once we are done installing, because then we can simply connect the device to our home Wi-Fi immediately without having to do any further steps. It's really amazing the work that Paulus has done here. Just finishing up. And here we go. Now we can click next. And now we can connect to the network. Hope I didn't type the password incorrectly. And now you can see it successfully connected just that quickly, and we can either go with the device now. This will bring us to the native WLED web interface, where we can set color and control the device. Or we can add it to our Home Assistant here, although the awesome integration by Franck should, of course, discover it automatically now that it's added to your network. But if for some reason you want to add it this way, that works too. You can change the Wi-Fi, and you can also have this nice debugging window where you can, for example, check the version that is currently installed. Yeah, that's about it for the demo. Now I will show you a new feature of WLED 013, which is the new version that is just about to release. It will release in about a week or so. As you can see here in the UI, there is now a white balance slider here if you have a device that supports warm white and cold white, so controllable color temperature. In that case, this is now fully compatible with WLED, and there are two modes. You can have it either that this RGB wheel will automatically calculate the white temperature for you and set it to the warm white and cold white LEDs, or you can have it set it automatically so that you have a manual slider for that. Like I have this lamp there up on my ceiling, and I can show you how that works now. For example, I can load this preset, which will set it to warm white, and now I can use this white balance slider to set it to cold white. And if I now go into the configuration and change it to the mode where it will calculate it from the RGB, right now, if I go to red, you will see it's red is a warm color, so it's warm white, and if I go to blue now, it's cold white. And this will ensure that some automations you may already have that set the RGB color will be able to set the warm white color as well if you have that turned on. Like most of the time you'll have a separate segment, like a section of your lamp for the warm white and cold white, and you can now also set it either via RGB or via this dedicated slider. It's one of the core new features of the new WLED 013 version, which I'm super excited to share with you all. The betas are out right now. Right now we are on the 6th beta already, but I hope I will get the final release in before Christmas. I'm planning that for the next weekend. Okay, I think I'm just about done with the demo now.
All right. Thank you, Christian. That's some exciting stuff. So those first couple of steps with WLED have been the thing that a lot of new users, a lot of people that maybe aren't real techie but really want to play with the LEDs like this have gotten stuck on. So having gotten past that now to where you can just plug in a device, it detects the device, it gets you the right software. It lets you put your Wi-Fi credentials in. You don't have to do the access point and all that. Man, I can't tell you how many troubleshooting steps that's going to save me when people asking, how do I do this? I can't find the access point, all those things. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, I want to give a real shout out to Paulus and Jesse again, who made all of this possible with the new improv specification that allows the device to be configured, its Wi-Fi to be configured this way over a serial. It's really, really cool. I really love it.
It's fantastic. Where can we find, I saw on the log there, you put in a V and you could see the version. Is there a list somewhere of what we can do with that console? A list of
well, it's only the V. That is the only command I've added right now, but you can also use it for the regular WLED JSON API. So it doesn't only work via network, it also works via serial. If you, for example, are in a place where the Wi-Fi is not that reliable, but you have the ESP connected via USB, then you can also use serial to set it. But it's quite an advanced thing. Normally, you wouldn't want to use the AP. You just want to use either the WLED main user interface or, of course, the Home Assistant integration. Shout out to Franck. It's so amazing right now with the new auto update features. He makes it even better. It's unbelievable. I love it.
I'm so glad you guys have been working together so much on that. I mean, those are my two favorite things in the whole world besides my family is WLED and Home Assistant. So for you two guys to have meshed so well together, just it makes me super happy. So, well, thanks a bunch, Christian, and thank you again for how hard you've worked for these last few years on WLED. Now, remind me, this was WLED was a project for you for university or something?
And no, I have made quite a few university projects out of it. Right now, I'm writing my bachelor's thesis about it. That's actually due in a week, so I still got a bit of work to do on that. And then I will have finished my bachelor's course. I'm really looking forward to that. And I ain't planning on stopping developing WLED for any time soon.
Excellent, excellent. I wanted to hear that for sure. All right.
And also,
well, hey, thanks.
Merry Christmas season to everyone.
Merry Christmas. You're going to have to show us at some point how you made that lamp up there. That lamp hanging from the ceiling is super cool.
I wanted to do a project post on it for forever, basically. Maybe I'll have to do that.
Finish your bachelor's thesis first, though.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, Merry Christmas, Christian. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is actually was introduced just now as well with Eric Cookie and Frank, is Jesse, and Jesse's going to be talking to us about ESPHome. Jesse, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, I love me some ESPHome, and I'm so happy that you've taken it to the point that it's at now. So, tell us what you can tell us.
Hey guys. My name is Jesse. So I work on ESPHome full time. What is ESPHome? I guess. For those that don't know, ESPHome is a firmware for microcontrollers. Microcontrollers are the small, cheap boards that you can buy online, just like the Arduino boards that everyone would be familiar with. Except that the expressive boards, or ESPs as we like to call them, have Wi-Fi built in. And the ESP32 boards also have Bluetooth built in. These can be used to build your own electronic circuits or devices for your home. And they also come in a lot of consumer devices that are Wi-Fi capable. ESPHome is a no-code approach that lowers the barrier for everyone to be able to use microcontrollers in their smart home. It does this by replacing 3/4 of the work that you would have needed to do yourself if using, say, the regular Arduino IDE to program your devices. ESPHome does away with you having to know the code and asks that you only write simple configurations using YAML. And it also provides a way for you to update your devices via Wi-Fi and exposes the data with an API server that the rest of your smart home, like Home Assistant, connects to and gets instant updates of the sensors and easier access to controls like switches and relays and things like that. So as Paulus has gone into before, earlier this year, Nabu Casa acquired ESPHome. Otto Winter, the founder, was no longer able to spend enough of his spare time on maintaining it and keeping up with everybody's requests and emails and everything like that. And because ESPHome's ease of use is very important for building out the open home, we wanted to give it the attention that it deserves. I was already a existing sort of core dev, I guess, on ESPHome, spending a lot of my spare time. And I was asked to join Nabu Casa, and I now work full-time on ESPHome. And because of this, ESPHome now has monthly releases, and we're making a lot of progress in sort of making it easier to use for even more people. We even had Otto join us during his summer to help out on a few big features. During that time, Otto added API encryption between Home Assistant or any client really that uses the API server and ESPHome, and support for ESP IDF as a framework, which I'll touch on later. We've also added Improv, which seems to keep coming up in previous presentations, which stands for improved provisioning, and I'll go into a little bit about that later as well. We've also made some changes in ESPHome to make it easier for everyone to get started with the funding from Nabu Casa, and therefore the funding from Home Assistant Cloud subscribers. We can make ESPHome the best solution for both DIY devices and pre-made devices with ESP microcontrollers at the heart. So because I'm working on ESPHome full-time, I'm able to focus on bringing in new functionality that Home Assistant adds relatively quickly. So ESPHome users can take advantage of this. For instance, the statistics and energy dashboard with a short delay between the releases. ESPHome devices were able to publish their sensor data with the correct fields needed and updated statistics and things like that, so that your energy dashboard in Home Assistant would show you could have your full house energy via ESPHome. Features like the configuration URLs that Franck showed off earlier, the entity categories, the numbers, selects, and also the button have also been implemented in ESPHome, so users can take advantage of the latest features that Home Assistant has to offer, and we'll keep doing so almost every month. So we don't just work on support for more devices and sensors. We want everybody to be able to own devices in their house that can be controlled locally and privately. And this means people who do not, people that know what they're doing with microcontrollers, but also people that don't want to know how to build electronics, or just, don't want to know, and they want to be able to just buy something, plug it in, and just use it. To do this, we've been working on making ESPHome more friendly towards those people, and people who want to make and share or sell devices that come with ESPHome pre-installed. This means that those users don't have to ever write any YAML. They can just basically turn it on, connect it in your home, and have it connected to Home Assistant, ready to go. So the improvements made in the dashboard a lot to make it a lot easier for everybody. So what we've got a lot clearer sort of overview of what everyone, what all your devices are doing, whether they're online, offline, updatable, and the new option up there is discovered. So we can see here that there's one discovered device which we can adopt into our dashboard. When you adopt a device, ESPHome will generate a very small YAML file which contains that device's name, a package with a URL that points to the actual original YAML file that was used to configure the device before you got it, and also configures the Wi-Fi using your pre-existing secrets. And this is basically all you need to install a newer version of ESPHome on top of, say, a device that you've gone out and bought over the air. So the first time you install ESPHome onto a device, it's generally going to be via USB, unless it is running another firmware that allows you to over-the-air update between binaries. So the ESPHome has been updated so that it can install to your device directly via the browser. So this is the exact same tooling as ESP Web Tools that Christian showed off just before. So yeah, the ESPHome has this as well. And you can basically install your configuration directly to your device plugged into the computer that you're browsing via, not instead of having to plug it into the server that may be locked away in a cupboard somewhere. As I mentioned earlier, we have added support to use ESP IDF as a framework instead of relying on the Arduino framework. In the case of ESPHome, Arduino is sort of a man in the middle between our ESPHome code and the ESP IDF. Sorry. And it had very sort of slow updates. So we decided that we'd prefer to go direct to the source. ESP IDF itself is updated a lot more and worked on a lot more. So this allows ESPHome to go from supporting the 2 devices, as in, the ESP8266 and the ESP32, to being able to support the full range of the devices that Espressif bring out, including the C3, S2, S3, any future devices, and also has unlocked potential for basically unlimited modules, including non-ESP devices. This just because of the restructure of the code. Hopefully we can bring out a lot more in the future. Out there are a lot of people that like to build projects. They spend a lot of time on designing a project and decide that they want to use ESPHome to power that project with packages and adoption and with ESPWeb tools and also GitHub Actions. We're trying to make it easier for those people to be able to put their instructions out and basically share their project and configuration straight from GitHub to a website hosted by GitHub Pages that allows you to directly install that configuration onto your ESP device as you're building the project. Take Adorno's tag reader, for example. This uses all of those tools and allows basically anyone building a tag reader to follow the instructions, and then right on the webpage has an install button to install the tag reader firmware directly to it via USB from the browser. So as well as people sharing devices, there are vendors out there that are selling devices that are pre-installed with ESPHome. And this is great for everybody to be able to buy a device, or mass buy a device that's just going to work. And so with ESPHome and the other tools that we've created and providing, there's no need for these vendors to worry about the onboarding, the controlling, the customization, the updating of the devices. Once they go out, Improv takes care of the onboarding by allowing the users to configure the Wi-Fi directly. Home Assistant provides a great UI and automation engine for controlling the devices, and ESPHome takes care of the hardware control and the updating and the customizing. All they have to do is physically build and market a finished product. So this brings us to the Made for ESPHome program. We came up with this program and sort of launched it a couple of months ago now. And this program, vendors or anybody can apply to be part of the program as long as you meet the requirements. And this basically allows you to utilize our logo we've created for this, which it can be used on on your website, your product website, or packaging, or even on the product itself. We have requirements for this project to ensure that the users will always have full control and access to their devices in the future. And this is why seeing this logo will mean that a user can trust that this product is open and can be configured and updated later on should they need or want to. So here's a few sort of examples of what we've found out there. So we've found a few sort of pre-made devices, smart plugs, switches, relays, light bulbs, garage door openers, the tag readers, the slim laser, Home Assistant Glow. They're all part of the program, the Made for ESPHome program. And just basically, allow users to have the best experience out there. And that's all.
Is that the end of the slides? I hear
that is. I don't have an end slide, I guess.
Well, thank you, Jesse. So I'm excited, and I think all of us here, just looking at the chat as you're going through some of these things, there's a lot of people excited to see more of these Made for ESPHome products. I hope that really starts taking off, and we can really start to see all the things we like to, that for years now we've been converting from whatever stock firmware they come with to ESPHome or something like that. But to see those devices out there,
you definitely want to be able to, for everyone to be able to use it, they need to be able to buy it and just use it. They don't want to crack it open and find the pins and serial flash it, and whatever else people have to do.
Making videos about that out of business.
Exactly.
We'll take it. I also was the IDF. I didn't realize that was such a change, that you have gone away from sort of the Arduino core underneath to a completely different. I don't know if you call it back end, but the core program framework.
So Arduino itself is built on top of the IDF, so it's still there. It's always been there. It's a man in the middle, and it opens up sort of and makes common APIs for Arduino, so that the people programming in Arduino for different microcontrollers would have a similar API. So we've tried to make it sort of like so that nothing in ESPHome has changed in terms of user usage, but it opens up the project for all the different devices basically. I mean, the sort of recent ESP32C3 microcontrollers, they weren't supported in Arduino until very recently with a 2.0 release. So it's a big major release, and if we updated ESPHome to that, who knows what would have broken, because we'd updated it in the past in minor versions, patch versions even, and things broke. So it was a better idea to just switch, but it was a big task, a lot of work.
Thank you for doing that. And then the ESP tools, again, we talked about it with WLED, but the change with ESPHome is so major. There's so many projects that I've seen that somebody will do a write-up of a really cool project of whatever kind, and on their website, maybe they'll post their code, or they'll say, go to GitHub, and copy this or download this, and then change these things to your information or whatever. Now with this, they can just put a link on their write-up of the project. You can plug in your device, click install, and it goes. It works.
Done.
It goes in.
It's we're trying to make it easier for everybody to have an open home that just works.
Yeah. Well, you've done a fantastic job, man. I'm happy. The future of ESPHome is in good hands. So thank you very much, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Up next, we've got Zac. Zac's going to give us a demo of the iOS app for Home Assistant and some of the cool things that we can now do with that. I know one thing that I'm looking forward to, so I'm excited to see what you have to tell us, Zac.
Yeah, this is going to be just a little bit of a demo of some of the newer stuff that is coming this year. So back in October, Apple started enforcing a very annoying change in how permissions are granted, which caused me to rewrite all of our onboarding flow. So as you may have seen or not seen, this is what the onboarding looks like now. So you can go through and it'll discover devices for you, and you can connect device and log in. And since I added a bunch of nice things, so one thing that commonly happens is you'll have a notify target for an old device with the same name. So we can say this is, a demo device. So now notify demo 2021 will be the name. Permissions are somewhat more elegant, be fast as you go through. And so this is one of the changes that came out around October of this year. So now the really interesting one that I think is probably one of the most common requests that we've had is the ability to add multiple servers to Home Assistant. So keying off of that onboarding rewrite, which was one of the bigger projects necessary to add this, you can now, in the app configuration, in the version that will be releasing probably later this month, add a new server, which goes through a very similar flow. And so here I have like 3 or 4 Docker instances on that server, so we have to type it in manually. But we have a second server that can come up here. So now, basically anywhere that the app references a server or allows you to do something with your server, for example, from notification actions or widgets, templates, Apple Watch, you can now configure which server is related to it, and it'll happen against that server. So a notification will come in saying, would you like to do this action? And you do the action on the notification, it goes to the server that sent the notification. So as long as you're running 20, 21.10 or newer on core. This also has a bunch of interesting little quick things. So I changed it for this demo, but normally it's a 3-finger shortcut, but you can 2-finger swipe, if I can do it correctly, between servers. So this will be 3 fingers on an actual device. You can 3-finger swipe up to get the list of your servers and pick from one and swap between it. And yeah, there's a lot of under the hood changes for multi-server support on top of all of the changes that have happened this year. Like the Mac app came out at the beginning of this year, which is phenomenal. I've unified how notification actions work across iOS and Android, so that's all very easy to set up now. The iOS 15 features, like a do not disturb sensor, came in this year. And now multi-server support. So multi-server is probably the most requested feature, I think, across all of the feature requests that the iOS repo has ever seen. You can get it now. It's in test flight. So if you open up the app and go into the app configuration and go to About, there's a Join the Beta button. Hit it. It'll open up the test flight app, and you can install the app right now and use multiple servers. Yeah, I hope people are excited. It's definitely the most rewrite I've had to do of the app. It took me about, I think, 2 months of time to get multiple servers in.
Well, thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. That's definitely one of those things that, maybe we don't see how much work has to go in behind the scenes there, but thanks for doing that. And I'm surprised to hear you say that multiple servers is a very popular request. I thought you were making it just for me. No?
I feel like a lot of people think that, but then everybody's like, well, I installed it at my parents' house and now I need to talk to their server, or my car has Home Assistant running and I need to be able to talk to my car and my house at the same time.
Oh. Now, what does that the remote connection to another house, does it go through one Nabu Casa account, or does each server have its own Nabu Casa connection?
As far as the Home Assistant servers are as far as they believe, there's no connection between them. The app is sort of the unifying thing here. So I think this one has Nabu Casa set up, so this particular server can go through Nabu Casa, and the second server that I have here doesn't have it set up, so it's just going over a straight connection. But you can turn on cloud or not on particular devices and it'll go through, and then all of the normal fun stuff will happen. Like local push still works, so if you are able to switch between Wi-Fi, so you can say the SSID of your internet connection for this house is this server, it'll connect locally on that Wi-Fi, and then you can tell the other server use the other SSID, and when you're at that location, it'll connect locally. So it's very aware of which place you're at and how it can optimally connect.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I had thought of something else on there, and I can't remember now what it was. I lost my train of thought. I started thinking about something else. Well, yeah, I know. I didn't think about that, like your parents or somebody else, but for us, we've got this thing, we've got the house, we've talked about putting it in the trailer, like RV thing and stuff. So it's just,
I think it's very easy to find reasons to install new servers. Like, oh, now that I can connect to multiple, I can have a test one and a regular one that I can work against without having to restore backup snapshots or whatnot.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, gosh, I wish I could think of the device name thing. That was it. So when you install the app on a new device, does this mean I'm not going to have 6 Justin's iPhones anymore?
I hope not. It probably will still happen with weird scenarios, but at least if you're going through the normal setup flow, you won't have duplicate device names. It'll ask you to rename, and eventually I need to add an option to delete the existing integration if you're logging in as an admin. So that way you don't have to go fiddling with it. But hopefully, fingers crossed, this reduces the I don't know why Notify isn't working when there's duplicates behind the scenes.
I've lost track of which one is this? Which phone was this? It's my old phone. And then you mentioned that now this multi-server version is available in the beta through test flight. Are you just kind of at the mercy of the App Store as far as when they approve it in the full version?
I think the full version is I still have a few bugs I want to fix before it goes out all the way. The test flight version is, and also new, test flight for Mac is now available on Mac OS 12. So if you install Mac OS 12, you can install the Home Assistant app and get automatic updates that way. But you can also grab the Mac beta from the GitHub page for the iOS repo, which also has multi-server support. So it's basically in like the beta stages right now, hopefully full release in a week or two.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you for your work. I use the Home Assistant app every single day.
Love to hear it. Thanks.
So good job. Good job. Appreciate your work on that. All right. So up next, we've got a couple fellows from Northeastern University, Michael and Maharsi, and they're going to talk to us about how they are using Home Assistant in academia. I know a little bit about what you're going to talk about, but I'm excited to have you guys present to us. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone, all the developers out there that have made this possible. So I'm Professor Michael Kane, Mike Kane at Northeastern University. This is one of my PhD students, Maharsi Pathak, working on this project. So this is, we have this project that we're calling Whole Energy Homes, really trying to look at not just how much energy you use, but when you use your energy. And how does when you use your energy affect things like renewables? Can you use energy when it's cleaner? I think this has been there's just kind of like little nuggets right now in the energy management window of Home Assistant. And I think that I'm really excited about this future and really excited about the team that's working on energy management at Home Assistant and how we might contribute. But you might want to use clean energy. You might want to use the cheapest energy available if you can sign up for a utility rate that is kind of time of use. And from the utilities perspective, they're really interested in demand management too, to make sure that their transmission system isn't being overloaded, that their distribution system, as more and more people get electrified heat and electrified vehicles, how do we think about coordinating distribution management? So how do we manage our energy? And I think that there's kind of two different paradigms right now. One is put rooftop solar. You have some old lead acid batteries that you've turned into a small storage system. You think about every light you turn on. You think about when you turn on your water heater is manually controlled on and off. And it's just a huge cognitive load, has been kind of the traditional way of really kind of managing when you use your energy. The other way we can do it is we just throw money at the problem. And the primary way to do that is energy storage. But batteries are wicked expensive. And so that's not a viable solution for everyone. And what I loved about Home Assistant is it's really looking at how do we do this? We have to use automation. But it's Home Assistant and automation. It's not just about automating the physical things. It's really understanding kind of the human side of it. If I were to have if I were to hire someone to be my Home Assistant, I would want to trust them. I would want to make sure that they understand me and my motivations. And I would want to understand their motivations. And I feel like when we're developing computer automation systems, we have to think about the same thing. Do we trust Home Assistant? And we definitely trust them with our data more than we might trust a cloud provider, which I love about that. But let's look at more at the energy management side. So how can we manage when we use our energy use? We can manage kind of just bring it all down and make it more efficient. That's kind of the traditional way of thinking about energy management and saving on our energy costs. We can think about shedding our peak load. Let's say that our load to our home or on our distribution feeder only has a maximum kilowatts that it can provide. So we can just kind of cut that off and reduce our peak load. What would be better is if we could shift that use earlier, because if we just cut the peak off, we might affect quality of service. And then really the future, what we would love to be able to do is to do seconds or minute scale modulation to chase renewable energy use, to chase the cheapest energy prices. But what's the state of the art right now is really just load shedding. And some of you in certain parts of the US or throughout Europe, I'm familiar with, it's very spatchy where you have utilities offering demand response or demand management, load management. There's a bunch of different words for it. And so we've looked at data from one such study close to us in Massachusetts, where what they would do in order to shed that peak load on their grid so that the grid didn't get overloaded was to just shut off air conditioners that were enrolled into this program for a period of hours during almost often the hottest days of the year when the grid is being overloaded. And what we see here is even for short events, let's say 3 hours, about 10% of occupants are opting out during or overriding during these events. If the events are as long as 8 hours, the grid is just overloaded for a really long time. Up to 40% of users will either opt out ahead of time or override during the event. And the problem is that the utility thought they were getting these energy savings, or if you were doing this just for your own home, you might think that you're preventing an overload. But because there's a human behind this, the human that can always override it, we might not achieve that. And so it's just not achieving the reliability. Automation isn't doing what its objective is because the human is overriding it. But we don't want to blame the human. The human is the whole reason this automation system exists in the first place. So how do we really kind of understand the human inside the automation algorithms? And so we really don't want to confuse the user and cause them to override. So let's look at understanding the users. So we have a very large data set from our partners at ecobee. This is an opt-in thing at ecobee, the smart thermostat company. Users can opt in to donate their data to science. So any of you that have an ecobee thermostat that have checked that checkbox right after the EULA to donate your data to science, thank you for donating your anonymized data to our research team and other academic research teams. The data is anonymized down to the city level, but it's still every 5 minutes, indoor temperature, outdoor temperature, why the set point changed. So we looked at tens of thousands of times that users changed their thermostat. And if before that there was some sort of automated set point change within 2 hours, we looked at all of those times where there was an automated set point change followed by some sort of override. And if we looked at all of those automated set point changes that were within just a 2-degree set point change, we saw that about 11% of those changes occurred within the first 10 minutes of that 2-hour window that we were considering. About 30% were within 20 minutes, 45% were within 30 minutes, and then we only selected data that was within 2 hours, so all of that data was within 2 hours. But what we see, which is pretty cool, is that the greater the set point change, the faster the response. So on the vertical axis, we kind of the faster the response is in the bottom left, and the further we go out from that zero. So we kind of the faster the response, the greater the change. So if we want to do demand management that accounts for the user, demand management of the thermostat specifically, we could do small set point changes and have them last for a pretty long time. Or we could do very large set point changes, but we have to make sure that we do them quick before they, for lack of a better term, piss off the user. So let's look at the building, the occupant, the grid. We know that they all interact. The building affects the occupant can override the automation, which affects the building. The grid plays a role in the automation algorithm. The environment affects the users and the building, like the outside weather. And not only do they all interact, but they all interact on the same time scales. The grid is really interested in chasing renewable energy on the order of 15 minutes to an hour. Grid prices change on those same time scales. The temperature in your home changes on the time scale of 15 minutes to an hour. When you turn on your heat, it should get to that new set point change about that 15 minutes. And from what we just saw, that same sort of human behavior dynamics from the time the set point was changed to the time they might override it is on this same kind of minutes to hours time scale. So we can't just say the grid is so fast, we'll just do this, or the grid is so slow and just try to time scale separate it. We really have to think about when we develop automation algorithms to include all three of these components. And so what can we measure now? We can measure the building response, we can measure the occupant behavior, but there's a lot going on inside of the human, the occupants, that are really difficult to measure. And so really all we can measure is the input to the occupant, the output to the occupant, but we can't really measure, we in some ways, the human physiology, the psychology, the cognition, what are they thinking? And then what decisions are they going to make? Are they going to change the thermostat, or are they going to put on a sweater, or might they open a window? What are the different options? And so if the automation is trying to adapt, obviously if someone opens a window, you don't want to turn the AC on. So we've developed this study funded by the US Department of Energy and the National Science Foundation to really understand how people interact with their home and how the home interacts with people. So Home Assistant is the core. 3 years ago, when we were first kind of starting, before I even wrote this proposal, I tried rolling our own thermostat and rolling our own automation system. man, was that a fool's errand. And then we stumbled across Home Assistant, and I've been loving it in my home ever since. I guinea pigged everything in our house before we deployed it to our research participants. But this is the state of the system we have right now. So Home Assistant is the core. We're giving the users smartwatches that we install Google Fit on to really try to understand some of the physiology, contact sensors on doors and windows to understand like air movement throughout the home, secondary heating and cooling using Tuya power outlets, and then backing up all the data into SQL databases for kind of machine learning to really build models that we can implement into future controls. So how do we understand the human part? I talked about the physiology with a smartwatch. We do the traditional social science approach of interviews, but interviews only capture kind of a snapshot in time. And one thing that we've really loved about Home Assistant is that we can do push notifications. So that push notification addition to the Home Assistant apps came just in time for our study. What was that, 9 months ago or a year ago? And we're using that now. 10 of our research participants are getting notifications kind of automatically whenever there's a sudden change in the indoor environment or they make a thermostat set point change. We ask them, were you too hot? Were you too cold? Were you doing this for yourself or maybe someone else? Did you consider putting on a sweater or opening a window before you made the set point change? So like I said, we're as part of this research study recruiting 30 homes throughout the US, 10 in Boston. We've deployed those 10 now. On the horizon are 10 in Denver, 10 in Miami or the Florida area. So we can kind of get these variations in weather. Phase one, an entire year of just monitoring. We're not changing anything. We're letting the people go about their houses the way that they were originally. And then phase two is where we try to develop better and test better demand management algorithms. And then there's kind of a phase three where we hope to deploy this to essentially anyone with Home Assistant or really anyone with compatible thermostats and smartwatches to really try to scale this from 30 homes, which is obviously not all encompassing, to thousands of homes, and really trying to develop machine learning algorithms to really build better models of people. And what we would love to do is to be able to develop kind of distributed machine learning algorithms that don't require us to collect all the data. But that's on a much further away horizon. If there's any computer scientists in the audience, please reach out to us if you're interested in that kind of distributed machine learning area. But now I'm going to pass it on to my PhD student, Maharsi Pathak, who's really been doing kind of the magic of the back end of these systems. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. And apart from like using the smart thermostats from Ecobee, also using the occupancy sensors to understand how the human within the house are moving around and what's the occupancy within the houses are. Also, we are studying, as my Professor Kane said, like how the portable heaters and coolers can be a big contributor to your comfort levels. So monitoring those and also indoor air quality. Apart from that, we are also conducting studies about how and who is within the house is thermally frustrated, and to understand the overall control algorithms around those, we really need to understand how the human is feeling within those new smart devices within their houses. So to understand some of these 10 installations that we have done and some very preliminary data, how a traditional home would generally behave is they will have a thermostat, and that will controlling temperature to create to run the systems at a preset temperature. So to understand this, the temperature variations, as you can see, it's consistently control temperature is remaining below the set point values, and it really means that heating system has to continuously run and provide that lost energy within the house. As you can see, the temperature variations across the same floor that the thermostat is, it's remaining consistently below what the occupants' perceived comfort levels are. So as you can see on this, as you move around into different places, different floors, maybe the places around will be too cold or too hot at the given time of the day. And this consistently you can see in the basement and the attic areas as well. So apart from this temperature variations, we also wanted to understand how the portable devices are contributing to those temperature variations within the house. So as you can see on the basement sensor, at certain time of the day, the temperature suddenly rises above what the control temperature is, and it's predominantly because of the user went into basement at the night time to watch TV and turn on the portable heater, and that's how the temperature around that time is really high. But the temperature, when you're seeing the temperature within the basement too high, but also consistently the thermostat temperature is remaining stable, and if for example, if some other user was in the other part of the house, and they will not be feeling as comfortable if the temperature around that particular part of the house is too hot or too cold. So, and apart from understanding how the temperature variations within the houses are, we also want to understand, as Professor Kane said, that the predominantly what controls comfort levels are the human within the houses and what they are perceiving as the comfort levels. So we wanted to understand who is changing the thermostat and when they are changing the thermostat, how often somebody is changing the thermostat. This kind of variabilities within the climate platform currently in the Home Assistant is not really trackable. So what we improvised on using the template triggers and template sensors to understand, track who is the user who is changing that thermostat. So predominantly we are using asking the participants to use the Home Assistant app, which is really game changing because you not only required to have like 10 different apps in the home, the user can just use one application to do everything. Make the temperature changes, take the surveys, turn on the smart plugs, turn them off, whatnot. So those are the amazing things that drove us towards the Home Assistant and making it game changing in what we are trying to do at here in the Whole Energy Homes project. So apart from just the sensors, what we are also trying to see is how these sensors are behaving, like whether they are reliable or not. So one prime example is the passive infrared sensors that come with the Ecobee thermostat. So these remote sensors are also detecting the occupancies. So as you can see, when we cross-reference this sensor data, some of them are not always being reliable. So for example, at the night time, all the sensors are showing that the occupancy is not detected, but actually the participant is home, but they might be sleeping, and that's why the occupancy is not detected. But apart from this night time, there are also times where the occupancy is really giving you false negatives, where you are home, but it's showing you are not home. So understanding these nuances would lead to understanding more how the newer edge control algorithms would work around the human and also the buildings when we shift to the newer smarter energy grids interactions with the buildings. To conclude, I will hand over again to Mike and make some nuanced points around those.
Yeah. So I hope that this study we can kind of share with you. Many of you probably don't have a dozen temperature sensors throughout your house, although I'm sure many of you might even have more than that. You get to do some pretty crazy things out there. So we want to be able to kind of share that the human experience and the temperature variations are hard to track. And we hope that kind of surveys and tracking which users are making changes are important new data sources. So we hope to soon kind of give back to the Home Assistant community with some of these, adding automation templates or Ecobee, updating the integration to include the window and door sensors, and to deploy this kind of survey integration. On the horizon is hopefully working with the Home Assistant community, and hopefully we might be able to develop it into the core, is these kind of predictive thermostat demand management strategies that the user can trust. And in order for the user to trust it, we have to think about how do we handle these sensors that might be bad, or kind of different ways that the temperature might not be able to be detected throughout the home. So thanks again, everyone, for the leaders of this conference for inviting us to share our work. It's a huge team here. I think we have over 20 people working on this project, not including the research participants whose homes we have Home Assistant installed in. So we're interested in reaching out to you. So you can visit our website, hear about the project. But we're interested in how are you doing demand management? Is it reactive? Is it predictive? Is it using machine learning? And really, how are you accounting for the human? Or what type of experiments would you like us to run? And what if we have academics, we have a bunch of PhDs researching this. How can we help you? So thanks, and I'm looking forward to kind of continuing to be part of this community, both in my own home and in our research. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was really fascinating. Almost as fascinating as that mustache.
Thanks.
That is something else. No, but very, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. You know, the temperature management part of our homes is super important. And I think one of the things I learned from your presentation I thought was really exciting that I'm going to use is the term thermally frustrated. No, but seriously, I was watching the chat as you guys were talking, and I'm glad you put up your information at the end of there about how to get a hold of you, how to watch the project. We use a lot of energy on being comfortable, no doubt, right? Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of people here that are very interested in making our homes do things for us that we don't have to think about, right? The best kind of a smart home is a smart home that just, you don't even know it's doing what it's doing. You go in a room and it's comfortable because it knew you were coming, or however. And so, awesome. I don't think that when Paulus and the guys started working on Home Assistant years ago that they thought that it would become a big part of some academic project like what you're working on there. So very cool. Very cool. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next presenter is going to be Justin, not me, Justin Prime. I'm Justin Secondary. And he's going to talk to us about the Android app, right, Justin?
Yep, that's the plan. Not as exciting as Zach's earlier presentation about iOS, but a lot of fun things that are being worked on, and potentially after after some of the work I'm doing now to get, as you can see here, some you can't see yet, some Wear OS stuff, some instant updating widgets. Lots of fun things that are coming real soon. So I'm here to show you guys around on what we've been doing and give you an idea of what's coming and when it's coming, and even further down the line, hopefully.
Awesome. All right, take it away.
Sure. All right, so I'm going to go through a quick demo. Hopefully the demo gods are on my side today. Much like Zach said with iOS, we on Android also had to redo our onboarding for different reasons, but I've disabled the discovery just because, as much as I want everybody to see my public information. 192.168.2. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going through our standard onboarding flow using our brand new device that we're trying to connect to. This should look identical. Under the hood, everything has been rewritten. So you can enable location tracking. It'll prompt you with all the Android dialogues, all that kind of stuff. Your default device name is normally a lot nicer, but because we're using the emulator, it gives you that wonderful name. So we'll just go ahead and continue. As you can see, everything about the onboarding was like it was before. You can obviously see behind me, I've connected it to an outlet over here. So we're able to turn things on and off. Great, lots of fun. So now if we go to our widgets and we look at an entity state widget here. So we'll just throw in the office outlet, throw in this switch. We'll just throw it onto our dashboard here. Make it a little bigger. Now, instant widget updates provided by the WebSocket API that Home Assistant offers. So now, as soon as something changes in your Home Assistant instance, you will get a updated widget. Right now, it works for templates as well as entity widgets. More support for the other widgets to come soon. And then the second piece I wanted to show off was our new Wear OS onboarding. So here we have yet another emulator. So let's really pray to those demo gods that we can connect two devices together. 192.1. So as you can see, we're doing all of this onboarding right here on the phone if you have two-factor authentication set up, all of that will work on your device, logging in. And then you should be able to go ahead and finish. And with any luck, we will now have our Wear device along with yeah. Let's see if the demo gods are happy today. Well, what else is new but a good demo fail? So ideally what you would see is the WebSocket updating, the the Wear OS device, as well as the Android phone, as well as in the web UI. Obviously, this is still very much in beta. We're actively working on it. I guess I don't have proof that it works, but it definitely does work. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. Along with the changes we made for the onboarding flow, we also, on the Android side, have plans to add multi-server support. It's on our list of things to do. Right now, the Wear device, the Wear OS support is a little bit more important on our priority list. So we're going to get that all worked out, and then we will start working on multi-server support. And I think that's all I had to present.
Cool. Well, hey, man, we feel your pain. I've certainly been there, failed live demos a time or two. That was impressive. I did, using, I'm an Apple slave, so I don't get fun things like cool widgets like that. But boy, to be able to have a little widget like that, something like that, my wife would love, because she's always having trouble with things like the garage door, and so having a button on the phone where you can just press like that would be great. And I'm sure that the watch will work at some point.
I had it working, and of course I wanted to do the full flow, so of course I reset everything and started right in front of everyone. And yeah.
Hey. So is that all part of the current release of the Android app?
So right now it's part of the current beta release. In the next week or two, we'll probably push it out to everybody. Instructions for how to get into the beta are right on the GitHub page for the Android app. Okay. So if you go ahead and search for that, it'll give you instructions on how to get signed up for the beta.
Cool.
We push out a beta release every Saturday night at midnight, and then whenever Google approves it is when it goes live. So
awesome. Well, Justin, thanks for doing the work, and thanks for being brave enough. Thanks for being brave enough to do a live demo, man. That takes.
Yeah. I was hoping for the best, but apparently I couldn't get it working today.
I'm sure we all know what that's about. Don't worry about it. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have some guys from Stanford, Giovanni and Neil, that are going to talk to us about another voice integrated system. All right. How's it going, fellas?
Great.
Hello. Okay. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So tell us about it.
So I'm Neil Souza. This is Giovanni Campagna. We are coming from you live from Stanford University in the heart of Silicon Valley here. And what we want to show you today is a live demonstration of the Genie system that we've been building. So we're going to just jump right into that. Hey, Genie, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm Genie, an open source virtual assistant created at Stanford.
Okay. Hey, Genie, what can you do?
Anyone can create skills for Genie. So far, people have created skills for music, news, weather, jokes, and other services.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Hey, Genie, what makes you special?
I have a state-of-the-art conversational semantic parser. It supports both context and composition. This means I can understand complicated questions and help you with complex tasks in a more natural way.
Okay, we'll get into looking at that technology and what that means in just a moment. But quickly, hey, Genie, why should Home Assistant users care?
Trusting your assistant is essential. I am a free and open system that respects your privacy.
Okay, let's jump into seeing some of that in action.
Right, and we will want to show you our technology. As Genie hinted, while most assistants out there use just intent classifier, we use a state-of-the-art deep learning-based semantic parser that lets you understand all the different variations and really understands your intent, your intention, your meaning, rather than just the letter of the words.
So essentially what that means is that instead of it matching based on the string or some sort of pattern, it tries to parses out the sort of semantic context of what you're saying and matches that up to the skills that it can handle.
And we're going to showcase that with a research skill that we have built to search for restaurants. And so using these skills, we can say, for example, hey, Genie, find me a Thai restaurant.
I see Siam Fine Thai Cuisine. It is a Thai restaurant rated 4 stars.
Okay, well, that's fairly easy because it has the word restaurant in there. You know, you could do that just by like looking at the text. So if you try something that's a little more implicit, like, hey, Genie, where can I get some Mexican food around here?
Reposado is at 236 Hamilton Avenue, Palo Alto, California.
And we can even go even more implicit and say, hey, Genie, I'm hungry. What do you suggest?
I see Ramen Nagi. It is a restaurant at 541 Bryant Street, Palo Alto, California.
The second part of our technology is the ability to maintain conversational context so that, for example, we can ask follow-up questions. We just heard about a restaurant. We can ask, hey, Genie, how many reviews does that have?
Ramen Nagi has 2,102 reviews.
Okay. Hey, Genie, what hours is it open? I think I just sort of flubbed what I was saying there. Hey, Genie, what are the hours?
Ramen Nagi opens from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Monday to Sunday, and from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Sunday, except on December 25th.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah, so the advantage of context is that it means you don't really have to say everything at once, but sometimes you want to say, for example, when we're searching for restaurant, you might have a lot of filters, you might have a lot of preferences and a lot of constraints that you want to apply to your search, and our semantic parser allows the system to understand them.
So like, for instance, you can say, hey, Genie, what's the best Chinese restaurant within 3 miles with over 500 reviews?
The top-rated restaurant is Mandarin Roots. It is a Chinese restaurant rated 4 stars.
Hey, Genie, how many reviews does it have?
Mandarin Roots has 571 reviews.
Okay, that seems correct. Hey, Genie, how far away is it?
The distance is 2 miles.
All right, that's what we were looking for. Hey, Genie, what kind of food do they serve?
Mandarin Roots is a Chinese restaurant.
Right, so you got all our requirements all at once.
So what you're looking at here is some hardware that was graciously donated by Baidu. This is a special development unit that we put this on to sort of showcase where we'd like to see something like this go in the future. But we also want to switch over to something that's a little bit closer to home for all of you.
And then some hardware that you can actually get right now, it's available and build this.
Okay.
So welcome to our home.
This is our home setup here. We have the Home Assistant Blue. Thank you, Paulus and the Home Assistant team and everybody else for sending us one of those. We have a Philips Hue light out in front. And then up here, we have a Pi Zero with a re-speaker hat that handles the audio hooked into a monitor. And on the back and the floor, you should be able to see a vacuum unit as well.
So let me switch.
So we're going to fire this setup up.
Hey, Genie, are you there?
Hello. How can I help you?
All right.
So, of course, Home Assistant as a community really loves IoT devices. So, hey, Genie, what IoT devices do you support?
At the moment, I can control lights, switches, vacuums, fans, and air conditioners, as well as a variety of sensors.
Okay. Let's see some of that in action. Hey, Genie, can you turn the light on?
Your request was completed successfully.
There it is.
And it was. It's a little bright, though. Hey, Genie, turn the light down to 50% brightness.
Your request was completed successfully.
Okay, that might be a little bit hard to see on the video feed, but something that should be a little bit more distinguishable. Hey, go ahead.
Hey, Genie, make the light red.
That's
the color on the lights for
very
you.
clear. And we don't just have lights. We have our vacuum. So I can say, "Hey, Genie, turn on, start the vacuum."
Okay, do you want me to start your Roborock vacuum?
Yes.
I started your vacuum for you.
And there it is. You can probably hear it in the back.
We got the vacuum going. All right, now we're having fun. You know what would improve this? Hey, Genie, can we get some disco lighting in here?
Your request was completed successfully.
A little bit rough with the audio there. And I don't know if we got the light either. Hey, Genie, turn on the disco lighting.
I looked at the color in your light profile.
Still.
Well, something has to go wrong, you know? Okay, so the final piece that we want to show you in this is the skill that everyone uses. Hey, Genie, can we get some disco music?
I see Let's Groove. It is a music by Earth, Wind and Fire released in November 13, 1981.
Hey, Genie, play it.
Well, we got something.
Okay.
All right. So, I hope you guys found that interesting. If it's something that you'd like to use, no? Okay.
I turn off the vacuum.
So, how can you guys help out with this? And I hope that you're interested in it. Everything that you've seen here today is actually live code. This is all publicly available right now. We're running it. You can run it if you are a developer like I am, or you're a computer scientist like Giovanni. Come through our GitHub. We have the code there. We have the repositories. Check out our wiki. We're putting together instructions on how you can get this stuff up. Try it out. Let us know how it goes. Let us know what we can do to improve it. Let us know how you can help and contribute if you can. For everybody else, if this sort of voice system is something that you're interested in, something that you'd like to be able to use in your homes, in your businesses, to be able to create your own skills, even train your own AI models. What is really most important for this is to show the support, to show the interest in that. Come follow us on Twitter. We'll be putting a tweet up with
a link to the video.
With a link to this video. We'll be distributing more information on there. Throw this up on Reddit, wherever you want to do with it, to sort of show the interest, get this word out, so that we have a clear signal that this is something that people actually want to use. Okay, I think that's about it.
And so thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. We would like also to thank our sponsors.
I think we lost the sharing.
Yeah, thank our sponsors, National Science Foundation, the Alfred Sloan Foundation, the Verdun Foundation, and Stanford HAI, as well as technical sponsors Baidu, PicoVoice, Smart News, Yelp, and Alpha Vantage, which helped us build the skills for our Genie Assistant. Thank you all.
Awesome. Fellas, okay. That was really good. That was really cool. Now, that lots of questions, okay? I'll ask several. I won't keep you too long. I think we could probably do a whole stream just about what was going on there. You hit it right when, you got the right community. You're presenting this to the right community, because as Paulus talked about at the beginning, having things local and private and not depending so much on Amazon and Google is a big deal for this group. How is this related to Almond, or is this somehow related to Almond?
So Genie is really the rebranding of Almond. Almond was a research project. It was a PhD project of several students. Some students graduated last year. I'm graduating very soon, in a couple of weeks. So all the research sort of matured into a product that we hope as an open source community can be developed, and that's Genie.
Awesome.
And as part of the product, we have got, for example, the new wake word, so you can actually call it by name. Almond was a bit awkward as a wake word, so.
Yeah, I had tried to use Almond and didn't get very far with it, but that was probably, I don't know, at least a year, maybe a couple of years ago. So is all this processed locally? Like, what part of it is local? Is there any part that is on a server somewhere else?
So the entire demo was the Genie server is running on that Home Assistant Blue. There are two pieces of it that do run in the cloud, and that's a resources thing. That's the text-to-speech and speech-to-text, which is a neural model. This is a piece that could be switched out for something else. Like, I know that Mozilla's been, some people formerly out of Mozilla have been working on something that you could potentially run locally. But it's kind of a thing of what's available and what sort of quality versus resources you would want on that. And then the second piece is the neural model.
The semantic parser that we were describing, that also is it requires some significant resources to be deployed. But the model is available, our training data is available. So anybody who doesn't want to run off our cloud, our code, everything, they could get rid of it and use their own instance.
Yeah,
right now. Oh, sorry.
You would just need some significant hardware for it, like a workstation, a server, something with some GPU processing available and decent amount of memory.
But so for any of us that were wanting to build one, those parts are that resource. Those are Stanford servers that's running on.
Yeah. So. For the NLU, the language understanding, we are running off Stanford servers. For speech to text and text to speech, we're running off. It's actually using Microsoft services right now, but it is currently available. So you can install the client, which runs on the Pi Zero. You can install the server, which has your own credentials, your own private data on the Home Assistant Blue, and then use just those cloud services.
Okay. And I haven't had a chance to visit your GitHub and things yet, but I certainly have a Pi Zero. I was watching the chat. There's a few people that have, that core to set up something like this. I've built the Mycroft in the past, or the PyCroft. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, since you're doing that same kind of a thing. So building something like this and tinkering or being able to contribute some data and such is definitely something I'd be interested in, and I think a lot of other people here would be as well. So that information as far as what Pi hat you need and doing the install stuff is all available there?
Yeah, so there are some limitations. Primarily, there's a chip shortage, but we have a few configurations. So it's all on our wiki. You'll find out the different hardwares that we have tested on, and the instructions to the different speaker hats. So like USB speakers that you'll want to plug into the Pi to build it. Yeah, it's all available.
Yeah, what you saw on our little home setup, that actually is the original Pi Zero. We got that as sort of the lowest end piece. As you can see, it does run on it. It stutters a little bit on the audio. We've maxed the processor out. If you could get, it runs pretty well on the Pi 4. It would probably run pretty good on a Pi 3. The new Pi Zero we think should do pretty good, but we couldn't get our hands on the Pi Zero 2.
Yeah, so our collaborators, we have some collaborators in Italy. They have better hardware availability apparently than here, and they tried it, so it works well on the Pi Zero 2. And we have, we'll have instructions for different OS. We have builds of Debian packages for Raspbian available. So
cool. Well, very cool, guys. Very cool. Thank you for being here. Thanks for doing that. I think that's an important piece. The voice assistant part of the home automation world is something that for too long we've still been having to rely a lot on, some of these big companies that want to keep our data and sell it and do whatever else with it. So this is an important piece to the open smart home, which is kind of, that's the topic here of the conference, is keeping things private and open source. So good work. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, for the opportunity to present to this audience. Love it.
Absolutely. You guys were a great part of the conference. Appreciate it. All right. I think we're about there. I think this is the wrapping up moments of the conference. So I hope everybody had a great time. I certainly did. I learned a lot of stuff, met some new people. It was great. It was a good day. It was a good day. We've had a great number of viewers throughout the whole thing. This will be available, I'm sure, on YouTube for a long time for anybody that missed it to go back and watch, or if you missed some part of it you didn't see at the beginning or whatever. It was pretty fun. I think we're going to be bringing a lot of us back on here in a second to kind of say bye and everything. There we are. There we go. There we go.
Hey.
The party goes on.
Hey guys, good to see you, mate.
Hello.
There's Bram and Pascal in real life, real hands.
Yeah, before I was looking at YouTube. It was great.
Yeah. There was people asking it and early on after we did that little bit about what it was and where you did it. So tell us.
It was amazing. Yeah.
It was in the work. What is it, Paulus? Workrooms?
The workrooms, the Horizon workrooms. Yeah. So this is on the Oculus Quest 2. So this is like the virtual reality stuff. Like we have these headsets, and this is how we've been.
It was in the
kind of cool because you can do hand tracking, and so the video we made. This is actually like recording. This is not us like 3D modeling this out. This was actually Bram and Matthias moving and stuff, and like it was being tracked. Yeah.
It works really well.
Yeah, it does. It's really great stuff.
It's just way better to work together from abroad in virtual reality.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Is this allowed, by the way?
Sure.
Cheers.
I was trying to match my outfit with my avatar, and I bought that jacket, but I didn't dare to put it on.
Here he goes. Yes, he's going to get out the jacket. I was hoping he would do this.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, there it is.
I brought the same jacket as my avatar, but I was just afraid that nobody would realize that was me in the original video, and then be like, "Why is this guy just sitting there in like a Panther jacket, looking like a pimp?" So I left it like for this final moment.
Fantastic! Oh, fantastic! Oh, wow. Hey guys, thanks for putting together a great conference. Paulus and the gang, you guys did a great bunch of presenters. Good information.
Yeah, you were great too, Dr. C's.
Thank you. It was an honor. It was
just amazing to have you, mate. Come on.
Oh, it was fun. Good times.
Yeah, it was so interesting. We tried to do like a smaller thing because last year was so big that we all kind of got burned out for like 2 weeks. And then here we are. We like filled 3 hours with like 8 different speakers or whatever, if not more. And oops.
If you actually go back into like the presentations and look at my Home Assistant presentation, I have this graph over 2014 until the end. And you can actually see the dip in the end of 2020, which is after the conference. We were all burned out and we did absolutely nothing. So there's like really like a gap in it.
I noticed that dip. I figured it must have just been a factor of a mistake.
No,
in the
it
data.
was the conference.
Because everybody stopped working for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Oh, good
But still,
times.
this was great, by the way. I was amazed about the Genie at the end.
That's really interesting.
I mean, this is a live demo. So the Baidu has provided them with hardware with root access. So there's all the software that's running on the Baidu device is their software. And so that is the same software that they were running later on that Raspberry Pi Zero, right? It's just like a thin client that records, sends the data to the Genie server on Home Assistant, and then deals with it.
Somebody's chatting here in the chat about the Home Assistant Yellow and maybe voice processing at some point. Maybe a way to attach the mic to something like that.
Well, the thing is that like the way I see it is that you need these satellite things. You don't want to put your Home Assistant Yellow in your living room. You want to have a speaker in your living room that talks to the Yellow, for example, right? So yeah, I think that would be like, I don't know, Home Assistant Purple, who knows?
Pick another color. Let's make
Right. Keep going. How many colors are there?
Yeah, I don't know. Next time you may pick a color, Dr. C's.
Oh, sweet.
Home Assistant WLED orange.
WLED
orange. There it is.
I'll take that one. Nice to have you here, by the way, Christian. Like, amazing to see what's happening there.
Thank you for having me.
Release.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I guess we're wrapping up.
I think it's wrapping up. It's time for beer for me.
I already, yeah.
You're way in.
Look how deep I am into this thing, huh?
I was done and I signed off and wished Dr. Z's a Merry Christmas, which I probably need to do again now. But nevertheless, that was the moment I actually was like, time for a good beer.
That's good. Now, I wish everybody watching a very happy end of the year, a very happy holiday. Thanks for watching. We will be back with the next release of Home Assistant in February. We're skipping January because we're no longer going to do work today, and we just did a release today. So the January release last year was like very empty. So we're going to just jump right over February. We'll be back with live streams, with content, features, cool stuff.
Both ESPHome and Home Assistant are available today with new releases. So both got upgraded and released just now, and enjoy that.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Merry Christmas,
All right.
everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.